looking at you kids.
You had me too.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Bond.
This seems so weird.
James Bond.
There's no place like home.
I'm gonna make him an offer down with you.
And welcome to another episode of Gone with the Wind. And we're here. It's going to be a fun episode today. We're talking about a bunch of stuff. We've got Annie's Awards come out the past week. We've got a bunch of goals that we haven't really got a chance to talk about yet. Everything's all heating up. We'll be talking about the Critics' Choice near the end, which is basically a lot of the same movie that won. But it is what it is. But we've got Dan here. Dan, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great. I'm pulling up the list of what we chose a while back for our picks for best animated films, and see who picked what. Let's see if I can find what all of us picked. Of course, we don't have Michael here, so we can't give him a hard time on his picks, but we'll give everybody else a hard time on their picks.
Well, I didn't do that. I wasn't on that episode, so
Yeah, you weren't.
I get off scot-free.
Yeah, you did.
Get out of jail free card.
I've also got Lewis here. Lewis, how's it going?
It's going pretty good, I guess. The second critics group that I vote in Puerto Rico, we just announced our winners, and what a surprise! Oppenheimer, which is starting to become the common favorite. So, but yeah, doing good. Godzilla won Best International Feature, so that's always great for me since that's my favorite film of the year. So, but yeah, doing good, man.
And last but not least, we've got Cameron here. Cameron, how's it going?
Oh, it's going good. It feels weird to be here without my co-host to talk about the animated films, and kind of dreading what I chose. I kind of forgot.
Well, I'm scrolling down here. I'm gonna find these things for us, and we're gonna see how cringeworthy these picks
so
are.
much changed from the first half of the year to the second, and it's like, well, maybe I should have seen some of it coming. Maybe not.
While Dan is doing this, I'm gonna start by getting there. I'm gonna do the awards for Annie Awards first, and the Annie Award for Best Feature. The nominations, we've got Nimona, we've got Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Suzume, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, and The Boy and the Heron. So straight away, the big shock is no Disney movies got into this five. So it is going to be an interesting thing to see if this trend continues to the Oscars. We'll see once we get to the PGA's nominations for animation. There's at least one that could maybe sneak in, but we'll see. But Cam, what are your thoughts about the nominations for Best Feature at the Annie Awards?
It's amazing to think about how the Annies, since they started doing the Best Feature Award in 1992, Disney got shut out. They got a bunch of technical and TV and short nominations, of course, but for the main ones to be completely shut out, not even like, it's not even a pity vote or a nomination for Elemental, because that bounced back pretty well among critics and fans. But to see them move Suzume and The Boy and the Heron to Best Feature, I think was the biggest surprise, because I would have assumed that they would have been in Best Feature Independent. But I guess the voters didn't really want to vote for Disney, so they were just like, can we put Suzume and The Boy and the Heron on the Best Feature category? And they said, okay. I mean, at first I was like, okay, Wish has to be good. It's their big 100-year anniversary film. And then it's just like, it came out. That didn't happen. I feel bad for the people who worked on it. I'm sure a lot of talented people put their soul into that thing, but it was a disappointment. And to see them not to give them anything, really shocking. in some regards, I kind of hope they do that more because this is just my thing with award shows and such. It just seems like they have to give Disney some kind of nomination when you don't really need to. There's a lot of other great films like throughout the year, especially from overseas or the independent side of things. But that's just me.
Yeah, no, I was just going back through the history of the Annies for Best Feature to see if there's any other instances where they completely shay at Disney. And there's, as far as I can see, Disney's got at least a nomination all the time. But when it comes to the Oscars, the last year there was no Disney movies in that five was 2011. Because I did that research. It was
But
I did
last
I
yeah,
did this
didn't
chat.
Turning Red get nominated last year? Because
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but even then, like nothing for Elemental, which was interesting since it was kind of one of the pseudo comeback stories of the theatrical release year. And
Oh yeah.
and then like for best independent, I think the one that has to win or is probably going to win the most is Robot Dreams. I saw that back in October for Animation as Film. Got to meet the director as well. And it's just a beautiful movie. And that's saying something because I love the Ernest and Celestina trip to Gibberishia film. And that probably would have been a front runner on the early side, but then, well, we got Suzume and Nimona and The Boy and the Heron and such.
Yeah.
The only one I don't recognize here is White Plastic Sky. That's the only one I don't recognize, but I know about the other ones. I've seen The Inventor. I know about Four Souls of Coyote. I'm kind of curious to see if TMNT Mutant Mayhem gets any more support from here on out or slips into an Oscar nomination because we'll have to see. It's kind of hopefully unpredictable with what they choose. So
yeah. But just quickly, we'll read off the nominations for Best Feature Independent. We've got Ernest and Celestine, Trip to Gibberishia, Four Souls of Coyote, Robot Dreams, The Infinite, White Plastic Sky. But Luz, what are your thoughts of the nominations for Best Feature and Best Feature Independent?
Well, feature independent Robot Dreams inclusion doesn't surprise me. I feel like that one's kind of a sleeper to get into the five at Oscar. I wouldn't predict it at the moment, but I do think it's got a shot. There's definitely a lot of passion around that movie. And I say that objectively because I seem to be like the only person I know who didn't like the movie. But there is a lot of passion behind it, and I've been putting it up higher and higher, closer to sort of right just outside the five. I think it can sneak in there with the passion that's there for it. I wouldn't push the panic button for Elemental, even though it is obviously a little concerning couldn't get into feature because it did get 6 nominations, and it was very likely this number 6 movie. It probably was really close to getting in there anyway, because out of the 2 Disney movies, that's the one that seems to obviously be more respected. Wish is dead. I mean, I don't think Wish even got a nomination with the Annies, and I believe it didn't get into PGA, but I guess we'll talk about that later. Whereas Elemental did bounce back, unless Elemental is snubbed come Thursday for BAFTA noms. I wouldn't necessarily be ready to push the panic button for it, but I do think that it shows a potential that maybe it could be a surprise snub. TMT, I'm feeling more and more confident it's going to get in there, but I do want to see if BAFTA with a little bit more highbrow voters go for it. I think it's got the support. I've been from the get go. I've thought it has the goods to get in there because it's the animation. Seth Rogen is everywhere. He's been doing a good job campaigning that movie. But to me, I think I'm safe with the 5 that I'm going to go for, which I think is kind of the 5 everybody seems to have at the moment. But I do think that there is a chance that we could see a Robot Dreams or a Suzume kick one of the borderlines, whether it be TMT or Elemental out. I feel, even though it did miss at PGA, I do start to feel confident Mona's going to get in there because it did so well with the Annies. And the movies that do really well with the Annies in nominations pretty much tend to get nominated for Best Animated Feature. And it's Netflix. It's easy to find. There's a lot of passionate support behind that one. So I think it's basically about whether Robot Dreams or Suzume can sneak in there and whether TMT has the goods to do it with the momentum that it has at the moment.
I
Yeah.
guess one question would be is do the Oscar voters choose one licensed like animated film based off of a licensed property, or do they let both of them in? Because I don't know, sometimes Oscar voters can be weird like that, where because we have Spider-Man and then TMNT, both based off of very popular franchises, both have amazing visual presentations and stories. I'm curious to see how that goes because they never let the Lego movies on, so
I would be more concerned whether TMT can get in there if it wasn't for the recent change in years where they let like everybody vote, not just the animation branch. Because a lot of those casual voters are going to be like, they're basically going to vote for whatever they saw with their kids or their nieces and nephews and stuff like that. So I think there's a chance. I think because of that, TMT has a good shot to get in there. Whereas something like Robot Dreams is probably going to get more of a support from the animation branch that really delves deep into this. I think it's going to be a little 50-50 if it can sneak in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones we'll get into in a minute. Why I think TMT at least, I think TMT is relatively safe-ish. I'm not hesitant to say anything is safe at this point because like there's only two which I think is definite safe, and that's Born the Hero and Spider-Verse. Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I will say if Disney gets completely shut out and Nimona gets in, that's an even bigger slap in the face to Disney because that was the one they passed on to. So, but yeah, and just to sort of go back to what I was bringing up is the last year at for the Oscars animated that Disney was completely shut out. Was 2011, and the ones that were nominated that year was weird. Rango, A Cat in Paris, Chico and Rita, Kung Fu Panda 2, and Puss in Boots. So that was the last year that Disney didn't.
Did Disney come out with anything in 2011?
They had Cars too, and
okay, that explains it.
Well, yeah, no, they had the Winnie the Pooh film also, but since that one got released theatrically alongside the last Harry Potter film, or what should have been the last Harry Potter film, but I digress.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
and
no, the biggest, and I've said this multiple times. If you want to get ahead of Disney, you have to catch them on an off year, and this is the most off year that they've ever had. So it's really, will the Oscars be influenced to cater to Disney or not? So we'll see.
But yeah. But Dan, what are your thoughts about the nominations for Best Feature and Best Feature Independent?
Yeah, I mean, I like some of the independent movies, like the Robot Dreams. I love the animation and the Peasants, and I love even though the story of the Peasants wasn't the greatest, but the animation was amazing. But like Robot Dreams was great, and I want to see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles get in because I believe it's one of the best animated films of the year. I actually like it and prefer it to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or The Boy and the Heron, and I'm just sad, that migration because it screwed. I mean, Universal completely screwed up the marketing campaign for that. When the strike was going on, they kind of put that past the fact that where everybody was going to be voting on, all the critics groups were going to be able to vote on that, and nobody got a chance to see it. Specifically, my group, I could speak on my group where our voting window ended on the 15th and the press screening was on the 16th. And we begged Universal, we begged our publicity company to give us that a day early, even if they gave it to us on Friday. The 15th, we would have had a chance to watch it and maybe consider it for our awards. And it's just sad that because I think it's one of the best animated movies of the year. That's just my opinion. I mean, I love Migration.
I think it's a pretty good movie. I think it's Illumination's best. But that late release date, that can kind of screw over people unless you're like a really big freaking deal, like The Boy and the Heron and such. But
Well, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish last year had the exact same thing, but instead of not giving in, they did give it to us a day or two early before the press screening, and we were able to watch it, review it, and a lot of different people. And people were like, "Oh my God, this is an amazing movie!" You know what I mean? But what's his face? The Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget. They gave us that one's supposed to come out till Christmas, and they gave it to that early December, so we were able to see it and consider it for our awards. You know what I mean? And with the Academy, they love Aardman. We know that. So you can't exclude Chicken Run. I know there's the 5 favorites. You know what I mean? But I think this is probably one of the best years for animation in a while. I mean, it's 10 deep. You could pick 5 of those 10 easily. You don't know what they're going to pick. And what Malcolm said, I love what Malcolm said. You don't know. These people might be going with the centrist picks. Mario, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Spider-Man, you know what I mean? Elemental, and then obviously Ghibli. It's popular. It's a popular pick because of the guy that created it. And so that's on a lot of people's mind. They might just go with the 5 popular picks and not go with some of these little indies the way I would love Robot Dreams to get in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those ones, like, I do think you may, like, it's, there's, I mean, once again, Super Mario will get into it a little bit because the PGA animations kind of give it a little bit of hope again, but I think the Super Mario is one of those ones I don't think it's got a chance. If anything, it's got a really small chance, just because like it wasn't shortlisted for song, so I think if it was going to have a shot to get into animation, I think that song would have helped bring them in. If anything,
it would. But my thing is this, Malcolm. They went kind of straightforward last year. They didn't go with the little indie kind of indie darling type of animated films that came out last year either. And Netflix.
Well, they backed Marcel. They backed Marcel.
But
yeah,
that's A24. Yeah,
that's A20. That's different. And that's the only thing about Robot Dreams, I think, that has a shot. It's Neon, and Neon has gotten into the Oscars in various categories. They got into like three or four different categories last year. Neon did with different films. So Robot Dreams does have a shot there, but they usually just the Oscar voting body usually goes pretty straightforward with the animated. They don't.
Well, since the animation, it used to be when the animation branch was the only ones voting on it, you would see some of those more like indie or more adult oriented ones sneak in. It's a little bit harder now that you have more casual voters in there that aren't, they're not part of the animation branch. So what they're putting down what they want to go see with their kids, what they want to see with their nieces and nephews, and that's why you see that bias.
What's easily accessible? Something that's on Netflix, something that's on Peacock, something that's on Paramount Plus, something they could just click a button, boom, put it on there, put their kids in the front of the TV. So that's where Peasants, Robot Dreams, some of these indie ones. Suzume wasn't really accessible. It came out almost a year ago, and then the other one was it's on Netflix, but it kind of came and went. The one that Disney passed on, Nimona. And they did send out a poster. They did send out a poster for Critics' Choice and Critics. Oh, here's a poster. Remember Nimona?
But that's streamed pretty well. I know a lot of like casual people I talk to have been catching that movie, and it's gotten a really good support
for Netflix. And that's the thing. Like, I know a lot of people that still talk about Nimona to this day. So I mean,
I think for Netflix, it's a battle between if voters want to choose Nimona or Chicken Run, because you got the Aardman side of things, and then you have the cultural impact that Nimona brought. This is why it bugs me that G Kids kind of really doesn't do well with theatrical releases, or it's just like, here's 2 to 3 days and you're done, which is why I'm sad for Blue Giant, or the first Slam Dunk is not going to get any love. And I'm so sad about those two because I love those two movies.
Absolutely agree.
And
Absolutely agree.
and nobody went to see Deep Sea, and that's like one of my favorite Chinese animated films for the year. I saw it on a virtual festival screening, and it has some amazing CGI animation. But since Viva Kids is such a smaller like distributor, nobody knows about it. So
yeah. All right. So Malcolm, do you want to do everybody give their final Oscar picks right now, and we'll put it in the chat for animated or no?
Well, in a minute, I'll get into. I was going to get into the PGA nominations for animated feature first.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. Sorry for jumping the gun there, Malcolm. Sorry for jumping the gun.
But yeah, then the PGA nominations have since come out as well, and nominated for at the PGA, we've got The Boy and the Hero, and we've got Elemental, we've got Across the Spider-Verse, we've got Super Mario Brothers, and we've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. God, that's a mouthful to say. But yeah, and it's one of those ones like the fact that PGA is also going for at least Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's part of the reason which I think it still has a shot to maybe get in there, but it's also one of those ones that I think because of PGA, Elemental might be the one Disney that sneaks in. But if anything, it's one of those ones that I think because I think it depends on how much of everyone else has seen like the likes of Nimona and Susan May as well. Because
well, it's about money with the PGA, Malcolm, and what made a lot of money? Mario made a lot of money.
Like the thing with award shows is that or like the Oscars, for example, they want to be about the most important films of the year, which is not always or ever the actual case. Here, it's like if you wanted to say like what was one of the most important films of the year, it would have probably be the Super Mario Brothers movie. Like quality aside, like it did so well. And I'm not shocked to see it here. I wish there was a little more variety among the like non-US ones, because another thing that I think some award shows do is they pick the one foreign film that they all stand behind, and then they're just like, okay, you're the good one. We're going to push everyone else out of the way. And I loved Boy and the Heron, favorite film of the year, but like I said, I want to see others there. I want to see a little more variety, and this is like the year you could have easily done it. But
they always pick Illumination. They're always going to pick Pixar. They're always, with the Ghibli film in there, they're going to pick that. And with Spider-Man have already won the best animated feature. That's, you know what I mean? It was going to be hard for them. And then I think the groundbreaking animation, the one that really has some interesting animation, but it looks like a film that came out last year, and that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Looks like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish with that painted kind of style. So the PGA goes, it's all about money with the PGA. It's like, how much money have you made for the studio, the big shots that run these studios? And Mario made a ton of money, and an Elemental had like this kind of slow chugging along kind of money-making thing where it didn't make a lot of money at first, but as the weeks and months went on, it kept on making money, little here, little there, little there. You know what I mean? And it kept on making money. You go look at the final box office of Elemental, and it's got a nice chunk of change for that movie.
I'm not sure if I'm convinced Mario will get in, though, even though it was nice for its chances to show up at PGA, because I believe Illumination films tend to show up at PGA, but then miss at Oscar, because it seems to be about the money with the producers, but then the quality of Illumination seems to keep it from getting into the Oscar race. But I will say this, even though I have my doubts it's going to get nominated for Best Animated Feature, that movie, even though I personally had my issues with it,
same,
I will never forget the experience of watching it with like a regular movie going crowd, and the way they reacted to that movie and the way my families and friends reacted to that movie, like it has some of the higher audience scores of the year. Like there's a big gap between critics and general movie going audiences on how they felt about that movie. And if there's a lot of casual voters in the academy that are deciding to get involved in voting for what gets into animated feature, a lot of them probably took their kids or nieces and nephews to see Mario, and maybe they check it off the box. I think it's a long shot to get in, but I wouldn't be completely shocked if it like has this, Boss Baby like surprise showing.
Yeah.
And
Well-
I think possible with what was the one oh god, I can never think of the movie, but the song was "We Need to Talk About
Oh,
Bruno."
Encanto.
Yeah.
Encanto, they started the show out with "We Need to Talk About Bruno." There's a chance we could get a Peaches situation where they start the show out with the Peaches thing. You don't know. I mean, because it was a very popular song.
I think if they do that, I think they
Okay.
do that if it got nominated for, if it happened to sneak into animated
Oh,
feature.
yeah.
But I think if it doesn't get in, they won't bother to do something like
Okay.
that.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing about Illumination, and you are absolutely correct about them. They tend to do very well getting into other award shows and nominations, but they cannot ever leave an impression on the Oscars. The one time they got on was for the 2013 ones with Despicable Me 2.
Did the
But
Grinch get in? Did
that-
the Grinch get in? No.
No, the Grinch did not get in for that one. That was the 2018 was the year where we miraculously got a Mamoru Hosoda film with Mirai getting nominated in Isle of Dogs, the first Spider-Man, and then Incredibles 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet. 2013 was The Wind Rises, Ernest and Celestine, The Croods, Despicable Me 2, and then, of course, the big hit of that year, Frozen. But ever since then, Illumination has a hard time getting back into the Oscars, and that is, I think, a lot of it is that their movies are subjectively, like, not very big, like, via critics, but, of course, audiences love them because they keep coming to them. But they have yet to have, like, a consistent, like, entry point of, like, they have a movie that's actually good enough to get in. But again, if they wanted the importance of the films of the year to be represented, they may think about putting Mario in, since it was like one of the first, or if not the first, big major victor of the box office race of last year. So who knows?
But yeah, it's going to be one of those ones that it's going to be interesting to watch, see what happens. But Dan, if you had to pick 5 movies that you think are going to be nominated at the Oscars next week, what 5 would you go for?
All right. I'm just writing this down in the chat here. I'm going to go with, and we're going to hold ourselves to these. These are concrete picks. We can't change these. I wish we had Michael here for this, but
well, I will say I'm not going to say it's concrete yet. Like if you want to change them
come on,
next week,
come on. We got these are concrete picks, Malcolm.
I don't know. If you want to do a concrete picks for the podcast, that's fine. But I still want to see what BAFTA does.
yeah.
Okay. All right. We could do our own like gold derby picks if you want to change something later on. But
Yeah,
we have to be held to these.
Well, I was
These are
about to say, like
on
you
the
can
card.
you can hold ourselves to them as like because but if you want, but yeah, like I may change them when it comes to next week. When
All right.
when it comes
So
next week is going to be our final like lock.
and these are not my personal favorites. I will say that. Okay, I'm going to go off of what I think is going to make it into the Academy Awards. I'm going to go Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I'm going to go The Boy and the Heron. I'm just writing these down for myself so I don't forget. The Boy and the Heron. I'm going to go with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm going to go with Elemental. God, this is so hard because I really want Robot Dreams to get in here, man. But I'm gonna actually go with Super Mario Brothers. I'm gonna go with the Super Mario Brothers. I would love to get Robot Dreams in there, boy. That would be a freaking awesome. But I'm going with Super Mario Brothers.
Right, Cam, if you were to pick 5 movies you think are going to be in the animated
Alrighty.
feature,
I think The Boy and the Heron, Across the Spider-Verse, because it's really going to be between those two.
Hold on, Cam. Let me just get your picks here. I got to put them in the chat.
All right. So, yeah, so Across the Spider-Verse, The Boy and the Heron, Nimona. It's hard to know because sometimes I feel like I know what the Oscars are going to vote for, and then they'll just go out of left field, and it's like, okay.
Nimona.
I'm going to go Elemental, and then it's like a toss-up between Suzume, TMNT, Chicken Run, and Robot Dreams because they're all going to fight for that 5th spot. So,
well, you got to pick one. These are our concrete picks for the pod. it's like pulling a teeth out. You got it's so painful, right?
Yeah, no, I don't try to vote like when I do these predictions. I try not to choose what I want the Oscars to be. It's just like, what do I know what they're going to choose? And you know what? I'm going to say Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget. So,
all right, we got a Chicken Run. All right, that's awesome.
Yeah. Saw that on the big screen. I had to go for Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget. So,
Lewis, what 5 do you think are going to be an animated race?
Well, Spider-Verse, which I still think is the one to beat, even though my other pick, Boy and the Heron, is putting up a little bit more of a fight than I think some of us thought it would. After that, I'm going to go with Nimona. I do still think it gets in there, especially after all those Annie nominations. And then for the final 2, I'm going to go with Elemental, and I'm going to go with TMT Mutant Mayhem. Those are the 5 that I've been predicting basically since the beginning, and I've seen nothing to make me get off of predicting them, especially given that I seem to have called TMT doing so well earlier than a lot of other people did.
right.
But that being said, those are my picks, but I usually get at least one of these wrong every year when it comes to animated feature. And I agree. Suzume, Robot Dreams, even Chicken Run, I could see sneaking in there. I still think there's a world where Mario's a big surprise nomination the morning of because of just how. Again, this is not just the animation branch voting for these. But yeah, those are the 5 I'm going with.
And for me, and these are, I'm assuming yours is ordered, you guys are ordered in likelihood as well, so mine is too. But in order of likelihood, once again, Across the Spider-Verse and Boy and the Heron, TMNT Mutant Mayhem, Suzume, and I'm still sort of holding it on to Elemental at the moment, but that's once BAFTAs come out, that's something I might change when we do our final predictions next week. But yeah.
All right, hold on. I got Nimona next, Malcolm.
I didn't have. I had Suzume.
Oh, Suzume. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because I didn't have that. Suzume. How do you spell that?
Zume.
Suzume. That's what I thought, but I just want to make sure. And then what was? Damn it! Damn autocorrect, you bastard! What was your fifth one, Malcolm?
Elemental.
Elemental. Okay, hold on. I'm going to read these off. Elemental. I'm going to read these off, okay? These are our concrete, gone with the wind animated picks. You heard it here first, folks. These are concrete picks. You guys are all like, there's no way these are concrete picks. But we have to stand our ground. We pick these. We have to own up on our picks. So, and we'll get the animated guys back down the road. Maybe what we'll do is we'll get Michael's picks, even though he's not on the show, and we'll add him to this, just so then we can still hold Michael to his 5 picks. All right, so here we go. My 5 picks for the Academy Awards for Best Animated Feature: Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, The Boy and the Heron, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, Elemental, and the Super Mario Brothers movie. Cam's picks are as follows: Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, The Boy and the Heron, Nimona, Elemental, and Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget. Lewis's animated picks: Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, The Boy and the Heron, Nimona, Elemental, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. And Malcolm's animated picks are Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, The Boy and the Heron, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Suzume, and Elemental. We all have something different. I love it. We all have something different. So this is going to be interesting to see who's on track to get this thing right, because we all have something different. 3 of us are going to be wrong. I'll put my and somebody's going to be right here because we all have something different. So
I mean,
it's going to be.
what all of us be wrong, and it's something completely out of the field of that last.
But Robot Dreams gets in.
Yeah, like Robot Dreams.
Peasants gets in. What if the Peasants and Robot Dreams get in?
That'd be nuts.
Well, I mean, come to think of it, did the first Ernest and Celestine, was that nominated at the Oscars?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that could be one I could see that being a bit of a surprise, getting this a sequel, if the sequel sliding into.
But okay, yeah. I was just thinking like the I feel like the last one had more buzz though.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
I mean,
like
Yep.
the second one got like a little buzz early in the year when it was at the New York International Children's Film Festival, and then because it was like September when they finally put it out in theaters, it was just like one of those week-long releases, and then it's like, if you didn't see it, sorry, but
yeah.
And I think it also, who knows, because just out of the blue, Migration could come in because it does have the original director of the first Ernest and Celestine at the helm. So,
oh, interesting.
yeah.
And the Academy will have been able to see it by the time they're voting, which they're voting right now as we speak.
Yeah.
We are in the Academy voting window. That would be crazy if Migration came out of nowhere and got in. I would be so happy because I love that movie. But
Bring the chaos to the award show season.
I mean, I'm telling you right now, this is probably one of the better animated years. I mean, for a while it was real slow, and then all of a sudden it started picking up, as the summer started going through and stuff.
Right.
But that said, that is the end of that. Cam, you I know you only want to come off the animations part of thing, but if you want to stick around, you can. But
I'm gonna head out. I have some work.
Yeah, it's all good. Where can people find you online?
You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Cam's Eye View. I have a website called camseyeview.biz where I review animated films and shows from around the world called The Other Side of Animation. I am also the co-host of the Renegade Animation podcast on renegadepopculture.com. I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/camseyeview. That's where you can find me. I will see y'all later. Peace.
Thanks, Cam.
But with that, as we move on, and might as well do the other side of the PGA, seeing that's where we left off. The nominations for the the producer motion pictures. We've got American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fool, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. Dan, what do you think of the nominations for PGA, and is this the Best Picture 10?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I believe it's the Best Picture 10. I think Color Purple has dropped off. The luster has kind of rolled off of May, December. I think those are the two that probably could have, maybe a Spider-Verse could have got in, but animated hasn't got in a long time. I'll tell you right now, I think this is the Best Picture 10. I was shocked that the PGA had the Best Picture 10 nailed down. This is going to be my predictions. I think I'm going to go with these 10 predictions. I'm having problems with my Gold Derby. I don't know what the heck is going on with my Gold Derby. I can't even get into it. But
the Brother Bro app is out.
Yeah, I got that. I do have the Brother Bro app, so I'm going to do the. I'm going to keep that as my predictions app from now on, because something's going on with Gold Derby for me. But yeah, Malcolm, I don't see any of these missing. If something misses out of these 10, I don't know. I can't see one of these missing. I've been hearing people talk that possibly Maestro could miss. I'm like, wow.
No.
Dropped off that much?
No. That's film Twitter saying what they want to say. Like, I understand. Like, people. I know that I'm biased because it's one of my favorite films of the year, but like, I fully understand that's got more of a divisive view among general audiences and stuff like that. I'm not blind. I'm a data-driven guy. I see the data, but like, the industry loves it, and has shown it at almost every guild. If it was a sliding scale year, I'd be open to hearing the argument, but it's a hard 10.
Yeah, and I'm right with you. And actually, I think it's a great film. I don't know. I don't understand what's going on with this vitriol around Bradley Cooper in this movie.
You can ask Malcolm, since he's not walking
Malcolm's
about the
part
movie.
of the vitriol. Malcolm's part of the vitriol.
Look, I don't hate the movie that much. I just don't understand what's happening in the movie.
It's just a movie. They picked like 3 or 4 moments in this guy's life, and they go from the beginning to near the end, and that's what they did. Instead of just like the more of a linear way to go about his life, they just kind of pick moments in his life.
So let me, because I know Malcolm's going to throw it next to me. So let me make an argument as to how we can possibly still have a miss in PGA. I'm not going to predict it, because I think you're going on a real, like, you got to be real ballsy to do that. Unless, let's say this Thursday at BAFTA, All of Us Strangers has an amazing morning and even shows up in Best Film, then you can maybe have a conversation that the international voters push that. But even then, I'm not sure I would be comfortable unless like Zone of Interest like really underperformed at BAFTA. And I don't think it's going to underperform at BAFTA. I think it's going to have a good morning at BAFTA on Thursday. The movie that I think is maybe the most danger to get out and was probably barely snuck in here was probably Zone of Interest, because that's such a late release. There's a lot of people who are whining that they haven't gotten to see that movie, but A24 has made sure that this movie is in front of the eyes of voters. I know there's a lot of screenings happening at the Academy itself with this movie. I saw something that Jennifer Lawrence herself was actually part of doing a screening for this movie, which goes to show you the kind of support, the kind of mainstream supporting among the industry that is in there for this movie. The fact that this movie got into PGA, which tends to be more populous, tells you what kind of support is in there for this movie. I think this is probably our picture 10, but I don't want to. When you're talking about a hard 10, I don't think it's completely impossible. There's a stunner where like Zone of Interest or Past Lives shockingly gets out. And I mentioned Past Lives because I think Past Lives is probably in there, but it's the one that out of all the Best Picture winners, I think probably gets in with the smallest amount of nominees, and that can always maybe put it in danger where something like um, a May December or Color Purple sneaks in. But the problem is that Color Purple has underperformed at almost every guild except SAG. SAG responded well to it. I kept hearing that actors loved it. Well, I saw that, but apparently no one else in the industry reacted well to it, or I guess maybe they're not even watching it. May December is just losing steam. And even BAFTA didn't go crazy for it, and I thought BAFTA would like May December. Um, and then Saltburn looked like it was getting some steam, and then it hit a wall because it didn't get into SAG, it didn't get in PGA. It's like that momentum just hit a wall after it was looking like it was getting in everywhere. I think this is our 10, but I think there's a part of me that feels weird that we're all going to predict the same 10 movies.
I mean, we talked. I don't know what I was talking. Either I was talking to you, I was listening to some other pundits, and it just seems like this year is just such a straightforward year. People are trying to make all these arguments for this or that or the other, this in, that out, but it seems like it's just been. Even though this year as a whole has been a great year for film, it just seems like it happens every year where it just gets, the further we go, the tighter it is and just kind of more compact. And these are the ones that most people expect. And this is exactly what happens. And it happens every year. We want to make these arguments about this or that, or this person's in, that movie's in, that movie's out, this person's in. But it usually narrows down to the quality of what the films are. And when you look at these 5, if it's 5 films one year or 8 films one year or 10 films one year, whatever, it's usually most of the time the best films get in there, the ones that really have checked a lot of the boxes in society, with critics, with actors, with different branches, with fans, people that go to the movies. And you got it all here with this 10. I'll be honest with you. You got some little indies, you got some blockbusters, you got some populist films, you got some streaming films, you got a mix of everything in here. You know what I mean?
I mean, I would say this is that I think it's to an extreme level this year, though, Dan, because you are right. Eventually, we get to a point where it's the same 6, 7, 8 movies, and then it's about what's going to squeeze in at the end there. This year, dude, like since the fall, I've only had to take out one movie and replace it with another movie in my personal predictions for Best Picture. That's how tight it's been. That's how ridiculously tight it's been. It's like everybody's just has formed a consensus. They formed it early and they've stuck to it.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I had to take 2 out, and I'm pretty much
like I did at this point last year. We had 7 that were locked, and we were fighting over the last 3. This year, almost everyone is going to predict the same 10. This is just a year where the consensus just formed early, and I think that's why that it does take a part of why movies like Color Purple, Iron Claw, these other sort of late releases that seem to get a little bit of buzz didn't quite get the momentum to become a thing, right? Because
Napoleon.
Yeah, because I think they just came out too late and everybody had already made their mind up. And maybe the strikes had something to do with it, where everybody caught up the movies and just said, okay, these are the movies we're going to get behind.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those ones like, I like if it's one of those ones I'd say if there's like anything misses, it might be one of the international movies. And
Yeah.
I think there's probably the safe bet to go, which means it's either Zone of Interest or Name because I think the other 8 I think relatively safe. Like my feelings towards Maestro aside, like I did like Bradley Cooper's performance. I thought he was great, but I just wasn't fast with the movie overall. but it's one of those ones like in response to like things like Color Purple and Iron Claw not getting in. And I think it's just one of those ones. I think with SAG, maybe the SAG really likes the acting performances in The Color Purple. They but it's one of those ones like that's really what SAG are judging the movie on, not so much based on the movie as a whole. and so but maybe it just didn't resonate too much with the producers. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Oscars when everyone's voting on it and all that. So
Yeah, the problem with Color Purple again is that it's not that it has bad reviews or even, and it definitely doesn't have bad audience scores, but I think it's like one of those movies, and this happened. We know this, guys. Every season, this happens to a couple movies where if we were talking about 15 Best Picture nominees, they're probably in, but we're not talking about 15 Best Picture nominees. We're talking about 10, and because there's 10, there's just not enough room for them.
yeah,
And it's always going to be that way. It's always when you deal with
There was-
5 nominees, 10 nominees,
Yeah.
whatever. There's always 3, 4, 5 things that we're thinking about. Like every one of these categories has that situation. We just talked about it with animation. But
Yeah,
it's stacked for animation. You know.
Yeah, there was a guy on Twitter who he was a huge Color Purple fan, and I can empathize because you know how much I love that movie, Dan. But
Yeah,
he was like, man, I'm so let down. I said, listen, man, I know it sucks, but this happens every year. This happens every year. Like, a couple years ago, In the Heights was my favorite movie of 2021. That ended up doing nothing award season. I just told him, look, it doesn't change how much you love the movie. The movie's not going to go anywhere. It is what it is. This happens every year to a lot of good movies.
yeah. And in the terms of the Iron Claw, I think it's one of I think the one for that. I think it's one of those ones like it's either a case of A24's got trying to push everything and seeing what sticks, or they're only really focusing on the likes of Past Lives and Zone of Interest. And
I mean, if these are the 10, this will be the first time ever A24 gets 2 movies into Best Picture.
Yeah.
And then I'll be honest, I don't think that Iron Claw is as good as people think it is anyway. I mean, it's not at the level of Past Lives or Zone of Interest for me.
Well,
I will judge that when I finally get around to seeing it this week.
Well, I am in the Iron Claw hide, so I get why people are loving it, but I've been telling people from the get go it was going to be tough, and ultimately Zac Efron got a couple nominations here or there from some regional groups, but ultimately it just ended up being an MBR thing.
Yeah, I mean. But it's going to be the same with the holdovers. Like I'll finally get it. I can finally get around to judging that.
Hey, wait, Malcolm, you didn't give us an update. Did you get to see Killers of the Flower Moon?
Yeah, what happened?
Well, apparent. Because it's not just me having this issue, but it is finally on Apple TV Plus. But every time I try to play it, I just get a black screen with a buffering window, and it doesn't do anything. Apparently, a lot of people in New Zealand and Australia are having that same issue. So it's definitely something with Apple TV Plus. Hopefully, it gets fixed eventually. But yeah, there's some people were saying they could play at least 9 seconds of it. I mean, nothing. But yeah, eventually, I'll get around seeing it. I don't when that is. I don't know. But yeah, and I will very quickly. I will touch on something else. Lewis said earlier about with May December. Like he did mention how May December is not doing well at BAFTAs. It could just be a case of it's not widely accessible in the UK yet because it doesn't drop on Netflix for me until February. So
possible.
So that could be the same case in the UK, but some people may have seen screeners, which is why you may be seeing it pop up a couple of places for the BAFTAs. But yeah, I don't think it really has anything to do about.
But it did blank with SAG, which is not necessarily as many international voters with SAG, and that that movie doesn't have it doesn't have bad audience scores, but it doesn't have the greatest audience scores either. Like there's it's like Dan keeps mentioning it. There's a very particular type of movie fan that has a vibe with that movie.
Yeah, I mean but it's one of those ones like But yeah, I just thought I'd touch on that because I meant to say something earlier but forgot. But
it's probably the same issue. I was gonna say this is probably the issue with a lot of movies though, because BAFTA, some of these movies that studios push at the end aren't getting out in time or even entry. Because I've heard Clayton Davis who's a member of BAFTA. I don't understand why he is, but whatever. BAFTA has a crap load of voters in it. But Clayton has talked about how so many of these movies get in the portal for the screening portal of BAFTA so late and don't even get seen.
Yeah. And you got to look at the part of it. I think is like none of the actors are getting in a lot of these. Like the May December actors aren't getting in a lot of these. Charles Melton's not getting in SAG. What happened to Natalie Portman? What happened to Julianne Moore? If you had that push for Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman and stuff like that, you'd probably see more love for May December as a whole. I thought the screenplay was really good. The movie's a little weird though. It's just a little weird.
Yeah.
The other thing is Saltburns the same way. Seems like the only person getting any love was Rosamund Pike, and I didn't think she was all that great. I thought the best person was Barry Keoghan, and he's 7th or 8th in Best Actor. And somehow they have the sophomore slump. With Emerald Fennell. You don't know. It's another one she's kind of ripping off the talented Mr. Ripley in a little way.
But you know what? Those movies that are in where May December and Over Strangers and Saltburn are, those are the ones where when we talk about down the road when we talk about screenplay categories, those are the ones that tend to sneak in there as lone screenplay noms. And so it's going to be interesting to see if any of them could get in there because that spot is open in original screenplay. Not so much an adapted screenplay, but an original screenplay.
Now I want to, and you can now. Did I ask this last time? You cannot now that they made the judgment on Barbie, the voters cannot say nope. We're putting it in original.
No, they can't do that. It's the actors are the ones who are allowed to do that. The writers branch cannot. They have to go by whatever it was under.
Okay. So Lily could still end up in supporting if the actors deem her supporting.
So the way it goes is that if the actors vote, if there's two different votes for Lily in acting and supporting, and both of them actually would get in, you obviously can't do a double like that because that happened, I think, back in the early 40s. So they made a rule that when that happens, whoever has the most votes in one category, that's the category you're in. But I personally don't think that's going to happen to Lily, but we can't say that it's impossible because there is a possibility they do that.
But that being said, we're going to move on to some other guilds that came out with the makeup and hairstyling branch. Came out with their awards. I think it was about a few weeks ago now, but I'm finally getting around to talking about it here. The highest movie that was nominated at the Makeup and Hairstyling Awards is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which isn't on the short list. In fact, the only 4 movies that were nominated for anything in the Makeup and Hairstyling Guild that are on that short list is Maestro, All Things, Oppenheimer, and Golda. Those are the only 4 that are on that shortlist that got nominations here. So it's going to be but it's going to be interesting. But going on to Best Contemporary Makeup, you've got Candy Cane Lane, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, The Haunted Mansion, Naiad, and Saltburn. Dan, what are your thoughts about the nominations for Best Contemporary Makeup?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a big fan of The Haunted Mansion, but the makeup on Jared Leto, I didn't even recognize Jared Leto in that, and you had a lot of ghosts and a lot of crazy characters and stuff, so it makes sense that would get in there. I wasn't the biggest fan of the movie because it wasn't that scary and it wasn't that funny, but that achievement in makeup, it was very good. Naiad, when she's swimming and she's been in the ocean for hours and hours on end, there's like stuff on her. It shows the wear and tear on her during those swimming scenes. That is some really good makeup. Guardians obviously has got phenomenal makeup. You remember that town, the whole town of the people and the kids all look like animals and stuff. And that is some freaking amazing makeup. I knew as soon as I saw that, I said to myself, and then you got Dave Bautista, you got Drax, you got what's her face?
Zoe Saldana.
Computer looking
Nebula.
Robot looking person. Zoe Saldana's green. So they got great makeup in here and Guardian. Oh, you got Gold Boy, Goldilocks.
Adam
What's his name?
Adam Warlock.
Yeah.
Adam
Plus,
Warlock. You have High Evolutionary and you have tons and tons and tons of makeup and hair and cost and that sort of stuff in Guardians. I think this is going to be if Maestro doesn't pull off the Oscar because of the acting, Oscar and makeup go hand in hand thing, I think Guardians could get the lone Oscar win here, and we've seen it happen before. With
Wait. But hold on,
Wait.
Guardians isn't in the
Guardians
short
isn't on the
list.
shortlist. It can't be nominated.
Oh no!
And neither is
That's what I said.
neither is Barbie, which won the Critics' Choice for makeup.
Are you kidding? Neither one of those made the short list for makeup and hair.
No.
Wow. Well, then
Yeah,
never mind.
as I said,
that's
the
why it
only four
seems
moves
like-
the only four moves that were nominated for anything in the makeup and hairstyling gold is Maestro, Oppenheimer,
Well, Maestro's got the win.
Golder.
You would think, but I
Well,
mean, when it lost Critics' Choice last night, it made me go, "What the heck?"
I mean,
Well,
look,
is Society of the Snow in the short list?
Yes.
So that could pull off the win in makeup.
By the way, so is Golda.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
Gold has got. I mean, Society of the Snow could get into international feature.
yeah, because
I
you've
think it
got
will.
because you've got Maestro, Poor Things, Oppenheimer, and Golder. So it's one of those ones like whichever, because going by Dan's logic about this whole acting and makeup going hand in hand, like Oppenheimer could still get it, and you get a Robert Downey Jr. wins.
That's
I'm
right.
telling you, Malcolm. If Oppenheimer wins makeup, if I'm sitting there watching the Oscars and it wins makeup, I'm gonna be like, "My God, this is going to be a Titanic level like sweep." And I think Oppenheimer. I currently, obviously, we'll see what happens with the guilds. I currently think Oppenheimer's gonna have a good night, but I'm not predicting to have that good a night.
Well, the thing too is you got to remember too, guys, is there's aging in Oppenheimer. He's a young man, and then he ages always up to being an old man. Obviously, the Robert Downey Jr. character, the same way. He's younger as Strauss, and he ages up. And characters like Emily Blunt age from younger to older. So there is some really impressive makeup in there.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones. I'll go back to what I've said a few times, like especially if Oppenheimer's like, it's not so much the aging, but you've got like different time periods and all that sort of stuff as well, the hairstyles and that, it's the same argument I made last year when we were talking about the rail versus I can't remember what the other one was that I saying could win, but ultimately went to the rail. But it's like sometimes it doesn't necessarily need to go to one movie for just one bit of makeup. Sometimes if you've got a whole bunch of things, and especially Oppenheimer and Maestro are both similar in that same respect, like they both have the aging and like multiple time periods and stuff.
I mean, Maestro could be like vibes.
Carolyn Mulligan ages, and she's got multiple hairstyles and stuff.
Maestro could end up being like Vice, where it wins makeup, but it doesn't necessarily like translate like Christian Bale winning actor.
Yeah, I mean, but it's one of those ones. At this point, I don't know if I'm confident with Bradley Cooper winning Best Actor at this point.
Yeah,
no. It's
not looking good now.
It's, at this point for Bradley, it's SAG or bust.
Yeah, but
because I don't see BAFTA going for him.
But anyway, look, what are your thoughts about the nominations for contemporary makeup?
Wait,
I can repeat.
Yeah, please do, because we got caught up there.
Yeah, we've got Candy Cane Lane, Guardians Volume 3, The Haunted Mansion, Naiad, and Saltburn.
Okay, just not to jump too far ahead, but there is another category that Oppenheimer got in here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, because I have a comment to make when we do get to that one. But yeah, I mean, I think this might actually show some strength for Nayad in terms of getting some acting in there, even though it didn't make the makeup shortlist. Because I've been noticing the ladies have been getting in. They are BAFTA long list. They did get into SAG. If they both get in this Thursday at BAFTA, it's going to be hard for me not to see them getting in. Because as much as people on film Twitter complain about that movie, I'm telling you right now, there are actors who really appreciate those performances, and I think they reacted very well to that movie. So I mean, that's what stands out to me. I would be making comments about the fact Saltburn got in here, but like I said, Saltburn eventually hit a wall when we got to PGA and SAG. So
Yeah, and no, it's one of those ones like because I think with for contemporary makeup, it's talking about like makeup dealing with like current things, somewhat set in current day, or I don't know what, which means Saltburn getting in kind of makes sense for that category. I mean, I will say I was really surprised when I saw Candy Cane Lane on this list.
yeah, that was surprising to me. I mean, I'm trying to think of what's the makeup that they're talking about.
Yeah, but it's one of those ones like it could just be some of that subtle like Christmassy style makeup that like most people tend to wear. But moving on to best period and or character makeup, we've got Barbie, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Maestro, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. With Maestro, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things obviously being on the short list. But Lewis, what are your thoughts about the nominations for best periods and or character makeup?
Well, I think this when these guys have their awards, I will keep an eye to see if Oppenheimer actually pulls this off. I remember last year when these guys had their awards a little bit earlier into the Guild Award season. Everything Everywhere pulled off a win in one of the categories. I remember finding that interesting because Everything Everywhere wasn't even shortlisted for makeup last year, and that was kind of the early sign over how much love there was to that movie. So to me, if you see Oppenheimer actually pull this off here, that is a potential sign that it really is unstoppable for even bigger prizes when we get to Oscar. If Maestro wins here, obviously that's a great sign for it because it obviously took a big hit by not being able to win Critics' Choice last night. But if Barbie pulls this off here, even though again it didn't get into the short list, if it wins here, that's a potential sign over love for that movie that maybe could lead to bigger prizes. So a lot of people aren't going to be thinking about it that way, but this is potentially this could tell us a lot about what could happen down Oscar season. And thankfully, these guys do stream their awards, and I always catch it every year because it's kind of the first little tidbits that you can see of where industry support is. So I think this could end up being arguably the most important category at the MOAs, I think is how they refer to them as. So yeah, keep an eye on this one.
Yeah, but yeah, it's one of those ones like for period and character makeup. This is tough because as much as a lot because with five nominations, which is pretty much you'd kind of think Guardians Galaxy Volume 3 would win at least one of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if this is the one that they would necessarily win for, but
I don't know if this is the one, Malcolm. I just think this is the one that's going to tell us whether Maestro's looking good or maybe even gives us a little bit of a early tea leaves for Oppenheimer and Barbie.
Well, no, it's one of those ones like I'll get into the next when we get into the next one, like because this is one that I think they may not really necessarily be judging like the makeup effects because that's the next category we're going into. I think they're looking at sort of everything in the background and that sort of stuff for this one. But Dan, for best period and character makeup, well, just because I'm not sure if you heard it when I said it earlier, but we've got Barbie, Guardians Volume 3, Maestro, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. What are your thoughts about the best period and/or character makeup?
Yeah, this is a stacked category, and it's sad that a couple of these didn't get into the Oscar race. But I mean, I think you got to have Maestro. I mean, Maestro's got to start winning some of these types of things if it's going to have a chance to win at the Academy Awards. And what and I forgot about Vice that Lewis brought up. Vice, that's right. It did win makeup. It didn't translate into the win for Christian Bale for Best Actor, but I think any momentum Maestro can get for Bradley Cooper, it needs. And I know, and so winning these little makeup guild awards would really help it come Oscar time to get that nomination and then also get a potential win. And then that translates to a potential win. But your point of Oppenheimer with Robert Downey Jr., we all know the whole aging and all that kind of stuff. There's that narrative there where it makes sense that makeup could go to Oppenheimer, because then that would be not just one person that it would translate for. It would translate for the entire cast. Matt Damon ages, and he gets a different hair and stuff and makeup. So there's a lot of characters that age from the beginning of that movie to the end of that movie, and the makeup really benefits in that. So, but the guy that did the makeup for Bradley Cooper, I mean, he's been shouting out this guy everywhere at all these Q&As, and he's been doing Q&As left and right. Bradley Cooper has all over the place, hosted by like Steven Spielberg, Alfonso Cuarón,
Spike Lee.
So he's been working as hard as he can, and he always brings up that guy that did his makeup, which is one of the best in the business.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, on the other hand, because if Poor Things was to win the Oscar for makeup, then that could be a sign for Emma Stone maybe upsetting Lily. So,
I mean, where's the makeup? Okay, you tell me. I mean, I think it's hair more so than.
I think that's what it is. Well, it's hair because
it's hair and Willem Dafoe. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, once again, it's hair and makeup, so I think it's just one of those ones.
Well,
it's Willem Dafoe, and it's the hair for Mark Ruffalo and.
I wonder if they count the hair for the dead bodies, or if that would be considered visual effects.
Well, I don't know. It's one of those. It's one of those. I've still got to see. I've still got to catch up on Poor Things. I've still got to catch up on a lot, to be honest. So it's well. So I don't know too much about that makeup.
You got to catch up for the Gone with the Wind awards, Malcolm. I mean,
well, I mean, it's one of those ones like with everyone else voting for it. Like I'll probably catch up eventually. Anyway, I may not be able to see it in cinemas. I'll just have to wait till it drops on streaming. But I think it's one of those ones like for the Gone with the Wind awards. Some of these may get on without me necessarily voting for those movies as well. So, but moving on to best special makeup effects, we've got Golda, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Maestro, Poor Things, Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire. And yeah, I mean, this is one of those ones like Rebel Moon sneaking in here surprised me because I watched was like, I don't really know where this makeup is. I wasn't fussed in that movie as a whole, but I think this is the one that I think could either help Maestro get some momentum or it stops it in its tracks. But that being said, going up against Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, especially for makeup effects, is going to be tough to beat. But if Maestro manages to pull this off, then I might go in on Maestro winning makeup at the Oscars. But yeah, this is one of those ones like I think this is the one that I think Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is probably the one that's most likely to win because just for everything like Dan said with the period and character makeup category, then like you've got the High Evolutionary, you got a lot of those characters in on Counter Earth, plus all the other ones. I think this is the one I think Games will win if anything. But then, what are your thoughts about special makeup effects?
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much. I mean, it's just a mix of the other two categories in a lot of ways. I mean, and you get Rebel Moon in here, which that's ridiculous. I don't know why that's in here, but yeah, I think you need to see Maestro win these awards. If Maestro cleans up at this guild,
Oh, it's over. It's over.
it's really
Yeah.
good for that Academy Award. But if
Bradley's makeup guy may as well start preparing his Oscar speech at that point, if you ask me.
you're right.
And he better thank Bradley.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, is it the same makeup guy that did the Whale or Gary Oldman in Darkest Hours?
Oh, I have no idea. I'd have to look up the guy's history.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's got to be Maestro or bust here for that film. I mean, if Guardians wins here, that's good. Guardians had a good makeup guild, but it's not going to translate to an Academy Award because it's not in the shortlist.
Well, yeah.
So it's sad because I think Guardians could have been that lone Academy Award winner in that category, like Suicide Squad, if it had gotten nominated.
I mean, it was in my personal ballot for makeup. I don't know if it was in yours, Dan. Yeah, I mean, it's some of the best makeup of the year. I don't know why they go.
I don't understand. I don't know why that gets knocked out of there. I don't understand it. But Golden.
But I feel like every year this happens. I feel like every year when we get to the shortlist of makeup for whatever reason, and this also happens with visual effects, where there's just something about where the branches of the Academy decide to get super selective over what they're going to allow into the shortlist.
Did Guardians get in visual effects?
I want to say yes, it did. For
shortlist, makeup. Maybe I could give it visual effects as no pun intended, a makeup for not getting in makeup.
Right. So I looked up the guy that did the makeup for Maestro, and it's part of the reason that I think it's definitely still at least getting nominated. So he was nominated. So he and I'm going to go through all his nominations because it's very interesting with two of these. He was nominated for his makeup work in Click. He was nominated for his makeup work in Norbit, and then he won for Darkest Hour and Bombshell.
Bombshell in the Darkest Hour. Oh boy, Lewis.
So I mean, that's why I think he's at least getting nominated for.
Look out, Lewis.
Whether or not he wins this. Yeah.
Well, just a comment on this category. If the other category to me is the one to keep an eye on what it could mean into potential bigger awards with the industry. I think this one is probably the one that tells us a lot more about what happens with makeup at Oscar. I believe this is. Don't quote me on this, but I want to say this is the one that they present last at the show. Having watched the stream of this show, so this seems to be considered the big one, and I believe this is the one that tends to be more predictive about what's going to win at Oscar. So if Maestro wins here, that's going to be huge for it. But if Guardians wins here, which I agree with Malcolm is very possible, that again shows Maestro just continuing to not be able to get over the hump other than getting nominated.
Yeah.
I will say after looking through the guy that makeups in Maestro's full filmography outside from what he was nominated for, I'm surprised he wasn't nominated for his makeup work on The Grinch.
Wow, really?
For the Ron Howard film?
Yeah,
Wow,
it was the same guy.
crazy.
He also did Planet of the Apes, the original Haunted Mansion, Blade Trinity. So, yeah.
Huh, interesting.
He's worked on a whole bunch of random movies.
That's great makeup. The Ron Howard, Jim Carrey. Grinch.
Yeah.
Great makeup.
Anyway,
I think that was the year. I think that was back when they only nominated 3, though. It probably would have got in with 5.
yeah, that would have been around the case. But anyway, aside from that little sidetrack,
Sorry.
no, it's not your fault. Because I was actually curious, as well. Now, they brought it up, because I want to see if it was that same guy. But
What
moving
about
on,
Bombshell, though, Malcolm? That was some. I mean, what's her face? Charlize Theron looked just like that lady. I mean, it was like uncanny how she looked.
yeah, and so there's like, as much as I don't like Norbert, I will say the makeup work on the the fat suit and that was good. I will admit that much. Um, but moving on to best contemporary hairstyling, we've got Candy Cane Lane, Joyride, Naiad, Pain Hustlers, and Saltburn. Lewis, what are your thoughts about the nominations for contemporary hairstyling?
Can you repeat those again? I wanna know.
Candy Cane Lane, Joyride, Naiad, Pain Hustlers, and Saltburn.
Yeah, I mean, probably. Well, this is just hair, you said?
Yeah, just hair.
Wow,
Yeah.
I'm surprised Naya got something for that. Maybe I guess to kind of show how the hair is affected
I
by
mean,
the water.
Yeah, I mean that's one that I'm actually not too surprised by, just because like it does take a lot of work to get that wet hair look.
Yeah.
But also, they gave her a haircut. That's not Annette Bening's hair. They gave her a haircut to make her look like Diana
Yeah.
Nyad. I don't know. How does Saltburn get in here? What the crazy look of Carrie Mulligan, or some of the crazy looks of
I think there's just passion. I know you're not as crazy for the movie as I am.
I like the movie. Don't get me wrong. I like the movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, like it's like in my top 20. You know, I don't think it ranks that high for you, but I'm saying that like there's passion for Saltburn, and I think that that's what gets it in here. But again, I do think there's a ceiling to it, as we saw with SAG and PGA, and I think that's might just be what it is. Is that the passion can help you get into these guilds, and maybe that's how we just got in here and got multiple noms. But it is interesting to me that Naya got in here and continues to make me think Annette Bening and or Jodie Foster are going to get into Oscar, because we know how much makeup is linked to actors.
Good point. Forget about it. It could be linked to actress with Charlene Theron twice.
Yeah, exactly.
Twice for Charlize Theron.
I will add, Naya's not on the short list. So
no. I hear what you're saying, but I'm just talking about like in terms of the
no, I got
the support for the acting. Even though I do remember it being interesting that it missed the short list, but to me this feels like it's either Naiad or Saltburn that's going to win this based on the nominees. But you never know if they do something crazy and give it a Candy Cane Lane.
yeah. I mean, it's still surprising that the makeup branch guild went for Candy Cane Lane at all. But I suppose maybe they just really like the makeup and hairstyling in this. But yeah, I mean, this is but I'm kind of with Lewis. I think Naiad and Saltburn are probably the ones that are likely to win here. But that being said, I don't know where the makeup branch will go for this. But Dan, what are your thoughts about contemporary hairstyling?
Yeah, I mean, it's just. I mean, I really don't have a lot to say on this. I mean, it really isn't going to affect anything come the Academy Awards. It's just, I mean, why not have like Poor Things in here? You know what I mean? I don't. They have crazy looking hair.
I mean,
you know what's I've noticed hasn't gotten in any of these is the color purple. Where's the color purple?
Oh no, that's exactly what I meant by earlier, Dan. Is that with the exception of SAG, it hasn't shown. I actually got off the train. A lot of people got off the train after Miss PGA. I got off the train when I started noticing it missing the below the line guilds.
I will get there. Because color purple did show up at once, but it's not contemporary hairstyle.
Okay.
It will be the same with Poor Things. That would have been more period hairstyling.
Oh, period. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Gotcha.
So moving on to best period hairstyling and or character hairstyling. We've got Barbie Chevalier, which I think I vaguely know what that is because I think it's on Disney Plus for me. The Color Purple, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and Maestro. But yeah, with period hairstyling, this is one of those ones that I think I actually think this is probably going to go to Color Purple because I think Maestro, while it did get a nomination for hairstyling, I think that's more of a makeup achievement over hairstyling, and same with Guardians Volume 3. But I think the Color Purple is probably the one that really does the bit. And not that I've seen it yet because I don't actually know if it when it comes out or if it's been out yet. um, but um, but just from the trailers, like that's the one that kind of screams like period hairstyling and stuff like that. And even Barbie, I think, like could win it here as well. But Dan, what are your thoughts about? I can't remember if I went to you for deeper hairstyling. I'm sorry, but what are your thoughts about the two hairstyling categories?
Well, the thing is, they got stuff in the contemporary that I think Barbie should have been in contemporary. It's modern day hairstyling. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
and other things are. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those tricky. Once again, I think it's one of those tricky ones because the period hairstyling is called best period hairstyling and or character hairstyling. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
yeah, I mean, Color Purple should be in. I think in a makeup and hairstyling awards because I think it's got some great hairstyling because you're making these people look like they exist in the early 20s or the 60s or whatever time period is, and that to me is something that you should look at. There weren't a lot of these kind of movies this year where like the hairstyling was like on display. You know what I mean? You got like period pieces like in the past where you could see the hair is on display in some of these movies, but there wasn't a lot of that this year. It was a lot of like kind of fancy makeup more so than the hair. But Poor Things had Mark Ruffalo, you had Rami Youssef, you had Emma Stone's character. So I don't know.
And Lewis, what are your thoughts about the period character hairstyling?
Yeah, just another one where it's going to be interesting when we get to the thick of guilds of what they do here, to kind of look at some potential tea leaves for bigger awards of how the movie's getting perceived by the Academy. Would be interesting if Color Purple pulled this off, considering its underperformance elsewhere. That would be interesting to see.
Yeah, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what takes that last spot in that makeup category because I'm going to say the fact that Four Things, Oppenheimer, Golda, and Maestro, which are the four movies that are on that short list, I don't see any of those four missing that category because they got nominated here. I don't see those four missing, so it's pretty much going to be a case of who's filling in that 5 spot. Is it going to be something random like the Last Voyage of the Demeter, or is it going to be Killers of the Flower Moon?
That's a good point. That's a good point on Last Voyage of the Demeter, Malcolm, because that is some amazing, really impressive makeup in that movie. And nobody's talking about that. But that could be a lone winner in a category like this. If Maestro drops off and Bradley Cooper drops off, you could see a lone winner. We've seen it, and I mentioned it before with Suicide Squad. That could be a default winner here, Demeter.
Yeah, no, I wasn't picking Demeter to win. I was just picking Demeter to maybe get that fifth.
No, that's what I mean. Get the fifth spot, and that could translate into a win. No, I agree. I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
that's a good. That was a good pick on your part.
I mean, it's one of those ones like I think if your theory is going to still ring true about the makeup and one of the acting categories going hand in hand, then you've got about 3 choices that you can go for. Maybe 4, depending on if Helen Mirren sneaks into one of those categories, which maybe not, but probably won't happen. But it'll be a nice surprise if it does, because like Oppenheimer's got a few horses in the race that are definitely going to be nominated. You've got Maestro with Bradley Cooper. You've got and maybe Carey Mulligan, who knows. And you've got Poor Things with Emma Stone and potentially Mark Ruffalo or Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, you're right.
So I mean, you've got about 3 movies which can tie to one of those categories
Did
easily.
Holdovers make the short list in makeup?
I
No.
had that.
Okay.
No.
No.
Just checking.
But moving on to costume, and I don't think we had a short list for this one. But for excellence in contemporary film costume, you've got American Fiction, May December, Naiad, Renfield, and Saltburn. Dan, what are your thoughts about the nominations for contemporary film costume?
Yeah, I mean, he got Renfield in here, which is interesting. I think you got to look at. Okay, say those again. I thought I remembered this something at the beginning you said, and I just for the life of me I can't.
American Fiction.
Yeah.
May December.
Yeah, I like the fact that they got American Fiction here because you look at the different clothes and sometimes not having clothes or having pants and having a shirt or some of the clothes in American Fiction are kind of like you say, this is how people would dress. They look like normal kind of clothes, how people would dress. And same thing when you're trying to dress people in a normal everyday, like in May, December, it's the 90s, so you got to dress people like they would look in the 90s and without making them look like they stand out too much, like they're just wearing normal 90s clothes, or in American Fiction, it's normal modern day clothes, but with a specific style to these characters. So that's always a tough thing, and I like that. I like that they have some of those movies in here.
Lewis, what's your thoughts about the nominations for contemporary film costumes?
Yeah, I just find it interesting. Now that we know that Saltburn seemed to hit a big wall, I find it interesting to see American Fiction in here. I think it only shows the potential passion for it, especially given its performance elsewhere. So it's really interesting to see it here, and tells me that there is definitely support and love for that movie. But I think we all know that we know American Fiction is looking like it's going to be a Best Picture contender. So yeah, that's the one that stood out to me the most.
And yeah, it's one of those ones like nothing much really surprising. Like these are all like contemporary films. It's one of those ones like I think this is a case of if this branch they don't have things able to be in cross runs. Otherwise, I would have said I was surprised Barbie wasn't here, but that came up in a different category anyway. So I'm not too unhappy about that. But for excellence in a period film, you got Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. For the period film side of things, I think this is the standard 5, and I'm thinking this might even be the 5 that we might get in. Maybe Napoleon misses and Barbie sneaks into costume at the Oscars. But I think this is pretty reminiscent of what we might see at the Oscars anyway. But Dan, what are your thoughts about the period film costume category?
Yeah, I mean, people have been bantying this around. And I think, to me, the best costumes, and I hate to say it's another Emma Stone movie, but it's got to be another Emma Stone. But I think the best costumes are Poor Things. I think those costumes in Poor Things are incredible. And they jump out at you when you're watching that movie. The various dresses and she's in something new every time she comes on screen. And then all the other characters are different kinds of clothes and stuff like that. So I know, did Hunger Games get in one of these categories, Malcolm, or no?
We'll get to it.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, so I liked it. Look, maybe the Indian garb in Killers, it stands out because it's a 1920s movie and that sort of stuff, the clothes that they got people wear there. But I think I would like to see a costumes best actor, best actress, or whatever, maybe translate to something for the Academy Award. So I zone in here on Poor Things.
And Lewis, what are your thoughts about period film costumes?
Yeah, I mean, I would argue Poor Things is an underdog to Barbie right now when it comes to the costumes at Oscar. But the one that I zero on here in terms of is Oppenheimer making it in here, because there's a lot of people have been arguing that if there's a place Oppenheimer's gonna miss, it's costume. I remember predicting Oppenheimer to get in here, and I was wondering if I was like overdoing it. And then it got into the guild. It got into the costume guild. And I've been noticing on Gold Derby, its odds have been getting a little bit better to get in costume. I think it getting in here, because for those who aren't aware, so far, because we still got a couple last few guilds here or there. So far, Oppenheimer is the only movie that has literally made it into every single guild. And for it to get in here for costumes, and let's be straight up, I'm not saying that it's easy to find costumes that match the time period, but at the end of the day, we're talking about simple suits, dresses. We're not talking about the crazy fashion in Barbie or the crazy fashion that they make up in steampunk fashion in Poor Things. So to me, it's very interesting that something as simple as Oppenheimer is showing up here with the costumes guild, and it goes to show you that the support for this movie is so strong all across the branches. So to me, that's what I zero on in terms of what got nominated into here.
So you're saying possibly, Lewis, you're basically saying you think that this could break the record in nominations for Academy Awards.
I don't, because I think it already ain't getting into visual effects, so that's a problem there. So it would have to, like, I right now, and I'll see what happens when I make my final predictions. Right now, I got to getting 13 nominations. To get to 14, which would just tie the record, would take a surprise like Matt Damon in supporting actor. Because at that point, I'm basically maxing out.
Emily Blunt in supporting actress?
I already got her included there.
Well, I mean, I think a big surprise could be maybe two supporting actors like Florence Pugh and Emily Blunt.
Oh, I mean, I'll tell you what. If Florence Pugh, if we're sitting there, and usually supporting actress is the first one they say. If we're sitting there and they announce Florence Pugh and Emily Blunt, I'm already going to start saying Christopher Nolan, Emma Thompson, and Christopher Nolan can already start writing their Best Picture Oscar speeches.
Yeah,
because at that point, it's the love is just over the moon.
How about two best supporting actor?
Well,
Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Right.
See, that's what I'm saying. Is I can see Matt Damon being a surprise before I can see Florence Pugh being a surpise.
But now, right? You don't think would have a shot?
No, I think that'd be way too. Like if dude, if we're getting to the point now where we're talking about the most come on, we're not putting it up against like All About Eve, Titanic, and stuff like that. I would say though that, but again, I can see it missing costumes because the costumes are so simple. But the fact that it got into here shows you that it is possible to get into costumes, and if it gets into costumes, it's probably getting in almost everywhere.
And I mean, just to add on to that, I mean, because it's one of those ones like, maybe a little bit of a harder road for Oppenheimer to maybe join the club of most nominated at the Oscars. But that being said, I could see it be joining the club of most wins, and join the club of Lord of the Rings.
I mean, for that to happen,
Okay,
though, like
okay.
Emily Blunt's gonna have to become a thing, which I actually think this is a hot take. I can see a world that all of a sudden Emily Blunt wins at BAFTA, and SAG does have a history of loving her.
Well, I mean, it's one of those ones because, like, as you said, you've got it getting into the 13 categories.
Well, it's
So, I
23
mean,
categories, right, Malcolm?
Yes.
So you eliminate international feature, you eliminate animated feature, you eliminate documentary,
The shorts.
and that's 6. So that would be 6 categories. So now you're down to 17.
Yeah.
yeah.
But
So,
it's not. It
Well,
can't get into
eliminate
actress.
visual effects because it's not getting into
Yeah.
in there.
And it's not getting into actress.
So that's now you're down to 15.
Yeah.
15
So, I mean,
But
places.
it can't go into original screenplay.
So that's 14. There you go. Right down to what Lewis said. Down to 14.
well,
right?
I mean, to add more fuel to the fire, it doesn't have a song that can
Yeah,
be
so
nominated.
it goes down to 13.
13.
I'm currently
and
predicting it maxes out at 13.
Okay.
But again, I think if you ask me what's the weakest shot of what it gets into, it's costume. So that's why I thought it was such a big
12.
deal that it got into here.
So it's safe with 12, possibly 13.
Well, what I was about to say, like, I think the only way it can get more than that is if it pulls off a double nomination in the supporting categories.
Yeah, that's what I brought up about that. If someone told me, if someone came from the future and said, "Hey, there's going to be a surprise double in supporting," if I had to guess, I would say Matt Damon.
Well, I mean, there's one of those ones like I can see Wilden because when it comes to the supporting categories, like I wouldn't say that's a really those are the ones I'm not really too. That I think there's got the two supporting categories have probably got a strong front runner in each. It's those other 4 spots. I don't know if there's anyone else that's really strong to maybe get in. So I think there's a lot of people vying for those spots.
But with best supporting actor, you already got 2 people that could potentially get in from the same movie. You're not going to get 2 movies with 2 nominees and have that'd be crazy. I mean, that'd be really wild.
I mean, it's happened in the past, but it is rare.
Well, I mean, it's one of it's one of those ones that, while a lot of this race seems pretty predictable and safe, I'm still saying there could be like surprises somewhere, and there will be at least some surprises on that when the nomination is announced. Anyway,
but my point into how we got into this tangent, because Dan was asking, I'm just pointing out that I think costumes is going to be the hardest for it to get. So the fact that I got in here tells me that it's really possible.
Yeah, and it's the sort of real around as I go back down to the next category. There's based on what is nominated, sort of in here. I think like Killers, Maestro, Oppenheim, Poor Things. I think I think the 4 which I think are definitely sort of getting in here. I can't really see anything from the contemporary category sort of maybe getting into that 5 unless American Fiction sort of gets in there. And the other one is we'll get to it is Barbie. I think because wasn't it? It was Barbie that won costume at Critics' Choice, wasn't it?
Yep.
And
it has the leading precursors.
Did the holdovers get any of the costume guilds or anywhere for costumes?
No, if the holdovers was to get into anything for the costumes, it would have been in the categories we've just talked about because it's not a science fiction and fantasy movie as far as I know.
No, because I'm just saying that's got some period costumes in it. You know, the holdovers.
Yeah.
But I don't think I think the love for holdovers, and I do think there's a lot of love in the industry for holdovers. I don't think it necessarily. That's not something that necessarily shows up in the crafts. Yeah,
which is weird.
It's about the story.
Because I think cinematography is great in the holdovers, but I know what you're saying. You're right.
Yeah, no, it's one of those ones I think with anyway, moving on to excellence in science fiction and fantasy film. We've got Barbie, Haunted Mansion, The Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, The Little Mermaid, and Rebel Moon Part 1 of Child of Fire. Lewis, what are your thoughts about the nominations for science fiction fantasy movie?
Basically, this should be a lock for Barbie, especially since I and others believe that it is the front runner to win the costume Oscar. Like this should be a lock. If it doesn't win here, that to me would be a massive red flag. But this should be a lock for it.
Yeah, I agree. Did Hunger Games make the short list for, or is there a short list for costumes?
There isn't a short list. There isn't one.
Yeah,
Not
not
for
a short
This
costumes.
Hunger Games could get into costumes. This is this a sign that it could get into costumes? In your opinion?
I need a double check, but I would argue that it's got an outside shot of getting into costumes. I wouldn't predict it at the moment, though.
It's one of the things that I noticed right away when I was watching it. You know what I mean? The costumes and the
Oh,
makeup.
I mean, it's actually in my personal ballot for hair and makeup and costumes. But,
Yeah,
you know that doesn't.
Problem is, none of
that's
the
me.
Hunger Games movies have gotten anything
Right.
in these categories, which is ridiculous.
Well,
You
I
think
mean,
the Hunger Games movies have gotten these categories? That's crazy.
well, I'm going back to have a look now because I know Harry.
Like Elizabeth Banks, Stanley Tucci, and some of these characters, the looks of some of these great Philip Seymour Hoffman, some of these Woody Harrelson over the years. You think some of these guys, the costumes, I mean, the makeup.
The only thing that I can think of is like genre / IP bias or something
Yeah.
like that.
Well,
but
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I will. I'm going to add on to that because none of the Hunger Games have been nominated, but every year there's been at least one big IP or something that's snuck in because like Black Panther's gotten twice, Cruella's gotten at once, and I mean I'll argue Dune's an IP as well.
But couldn't you make that argument for Barbie? And Barbie, in my opinion, is going to win the costume.
Well,
Oscar.
yeah,
Could
no,
Guardians get into costumes though?
Can what?
Could Guardians get into costumes?
Technically, yes, but I think it's a long shot.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I think, yeah, I mean, it's even though it hasn't been none of the other ones I don't think were ever nominated for costume, but I think a lot of it is them using the same costumes they've done in all their movies, so it's not like they're really,
No, you got High Evolutionary, you got Adam Warlock, you got
well, I mean, I get that, but
Ravagers. I don't know. I'm just.
But with the Ravagers, there's a whole lot of that same costume they've done sort of over all the other things. It's not like
that planet, that moon, that living moon, all the people, all the stuff those people were wearing.
But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's and I think it's one of those ones like it's going to be a really long shot to sort of say Guardians is going to get in, just like for that same reason. I think I'm not 100% on Hunger Games maybe sneaking in too, but just for the fact that that I as sort of said, like with Barbie is going to be the big IP that it will get in anything. If we get two, then I do see maybe Hunger Games sneaking in, taking the place of something. But yeah.
Did
moving
we
on.
do period costumes, Malcolm?
What was that?
Do you already do period costumes?
Yeah, period costumes is the one that Oppenheimer was. When we were talking about.
And there was no color purple in period costumes.
No color purple.
No, that was a big snub. Again, I think this is the one that made me finally pull the trigger that color purple wasn't getting into picture.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean it is. I mean,
but moving on to set decorators. So, best achievement in decor design of a contemporary feature film. We've got The Killer, Leave the World Behind, May December, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Saltburn. But yeah, this is one of those ones that I think is interesting. Especially if that a lot of Mission Impossible is sort of not so much in area and that, but I think Saltburn is the one that I think I'm probably more confident might get into might get into this production design at the Oscars, but yeah. But Dan, what are your thoughts about the best achievement and decor design of a contemporary feature film?
Well, I like the fact that the killer got in here, but like those Downton Abbey houses and stuff like that. I mean, they could just rent the dang house and all that stuff's in there. You don't know what the heck they put into the house. You don't know what what the set was already looking like before I got on there. You know, in Saltburn. You know what I mean? There's dozens of massive houses and castles like that over in England and Scotland and Ireland. You know, but I'm not going to speculate. But I actually like the killer here because it takes a lot to do the things that they did with like the movie tickets and the credit cards and the checks and the how he pays for all the things, how he has to go and say, hey, I'm buying a rental car, I'm going on a plane, or I'm getting a hotel, and have all those little details that they do in the killer. So that was fascinating that would be in here because I'm impressed by all that because they could have just went the straightforward way with this and didn't even show any of that stuff, but they did. And he moves around, he goes for different places. You know what I mean? So I like that the killer's in here.
But Lewis, what are your thoughts about the core design of a contemporary film?
I'm not surprised Saltburn is in here because I do think it's got a long shot to be like a surprise sort of fifth production design nominee, even though I wouldn't predict it at the moment. Don't forget a couple years ago, Dan, during the weaker year, Emma got a lot of like love for its production design.
I love that movie.
There does seem to be something that they like about that kind of aesthetic in the background of those movies.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying about the killer, but I would think Saltburn is the one to beat here at least in this guild.
Right.
Yeah. And it's one of those ones to counter Dan's point about like I can just do any kind of house. I think it does take a lot of skill to find the exact house for that's going to work for maybe the action stuff that you've got in the script as well, and also decide what kind of props and stuff, because once again, set design is not just building a set or finding a set and filming.
Sorry, Malcolm. I was going to point out also the wild parties. Like that there goes a lot into setting that up.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those ones like there's not really much here that I think could win. I'm kind of leaning towards Saltburn to maybe pull out the win here, but not that I'm sort of predicting it to be nominated. But moving on to achievement in decor design of a period feature film, we've got Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Lewis, what are your thoughts about the period decor design?
Yeah, again, when these guilds started doing their awards, I'm gonna keep an eye out on does Oppenheimer pull off wins in places like this, because none of us think Oppenheimer is. I mean, Oppenheimer's not gonna win costumes at Oscar. I mean, if it wins costume at Oscar, again, we're talking Lord of the Rings style sweep.
Yeah,
but if it wins at the guild in this category, it's a sign of its strength overall, and the love that movie has up and down the different branches of the academy. Maestro getting in here is interesting because I do think it's kind of my no guts, no glory prediction at the moment to get into production design. That will give me a lot of points on Gold Derby if that happens. It's an underdog to get in there, but I think people are underestimating it because for whatever film Twitter feels about that movie, it is strong with the industry. It has shown up at almost every guild. So it's very interesting to me that it got in here for production design of all things.
Yeah, but that being said, moving on to not so much moving on. I think with Oppenheimer, from what I understand, is they actually built the city and stuff that goes with. So I mean, So,
which
like,
has been a strong narrative to them about production design. It's like they keep mentioning we had to build a town, we had to build a town.
and we'll get to another one, another category of a very similar situation in a minute. But best achievement in decor design of a fantasy or science fiction film. We've got Barbie, we've got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, we've got The Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and Wonka. And this is one that look, I love Dial of Destiny. I'm one of the few people that did actually really enjoy Dial of Destiny.
I actually enjoyed it too, Malcolm.
But I'm not sure if I think the set design I don't think was that good. If I'm being honest here, if anything, so I'm a little bit surprised to see this in here, but I'm glad to see Wonka getting some love. And like Wonka is one of those ones I think the set design is amazing, and I really want to see that being nominated.
I think it's got an outside shot of a production design nomination.
Oh yeah, and but then again, I think Barbie is the one that's going to win.
Agreed.
Because I mean, they made it once again, as I've said a few other times, like they did shortage of the color pink. So, I mean, but Dan, what are your thoughts about fantasy, science fiction, and decor design?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's these movies have to look real, and it's hard to make like sci-fi movies and these types of movies look as real as they're supposed to look, so you don't aren't like, it's not like taking your mind off of what's going on with the dialogue and the characters. These movies look wonky looking and stuff. Like, I'll be honest, I thought that ship that in Guardians was a little bit like it kind of like I focused on that ship a little bit too much, like, and some of these movies, that yeah, I don't like the fact that the production design takes you away from what's going on with the characters and the script. You know what I mean? But sometimes it sucks you in, and that's where it really works very well if you get the right kind of production design. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, that being said, like I think part of the reason Guardians might be here is once again we've mentioned this a few times, but it's that counter Earth like that whole set. Like, well, yeah, I get your point about some of the set design pulling you away from some of the action, but yeah. And then moving on to best achievement in decor design.
Hold up a sec, Malcolm, because you skipped me for a second.
Oh,
And I just, you're right. I just wanted to make a quick point because there isn't really much to say here. Barbie should win the Oscar for this based on what's happening at the moment. My personal winner's Poor Things, but objectively, it's obvious that Barbie's the favorite here. Barbie should win this again. When these Guild Awards happen, if it loses here, potential red flag. So that's what I would advise anybody watching. This is why even the below the line guilds you want to keep an eye on, because they could tell you a lot about a movie's momentum.
Yeah.
My thing though was, where's Asteroid City in all of this? I mean, what happened to Asteroid City?
We'll get there, Ted. Stop trying to jump because best achievement in decor design of a comedy or musical feature film.
Oh, I got you.
We've got American Fiction, Are There God, It's Me, Margaret, Asteroid City, Candy Cane Lane, and The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
If you were to tell me at the start of this award season that Candy Cane Lane was going to pop up in some of these below the line guilds, I would say you're crazy, but we sort of make up. Now we're seeing it here. It's not going to be nominated for an Oscar anyway. I think this is Asteroid City's one to lose here, because once again, they literally built the whole set, and I think they were literally like on set pretty much the whole time too, because they and yeah, so I think I really want Asteroid City to maybe at least get the nomination for production design, but at this point, I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know if it's one of those ones like it'll be one of the first ones said when the nominations are announced because they do it in alphabetical order anyway.
Yeah.
Um, so if they start off by saying Barbie is like that, then we'll know Asteroid City's pretty much dead at the point of this
Yeah.
point.
My
But
thing
then what are your
too,
thoughts about comedy musical?
yeah, my thing too, Malcolm, is like where's Asteroid City in general, like in costumes and makeup. Obviously, we all know the production design's incredible in this movie, but where is this movie in general? It's got a lot of love. I mean, I didn't love it. I've had to watch it 2 or 3 times before I finally started coming around to that this is a really good movie, more than I thought it was originally when I first saw it. I'm thinking to myself, why aren't these craft guilds going for Asteroid City? You know what I mean? Not just for production design,
Yeah,
but like hair and makeup and costumes and stuff like that. Even there's a really good song in there near the end of the movie. I don't understand
well,
what's going on with Asteroid City.
I mean, the song is on the shortlist for the Oscars, so I think there's still a chance that that could maybe translate to something. I don't think so, but I think um it's the song at least has a shot.
It did
It's
make BAFTA long list for costumes, by the way.
Oh, that's
yeah,
good.
but yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones like I'm a big fan of Edgewood too. It's one of those ones like in a year where there was a lot of period piece action, a lot of fantasy stuff. It's just unfortunately that I think a lot of Asteroid City has kind of been, especially with the costumes. I think it's probably been over in the case of probably been overshadowed by some of those period piece and all that, just because like it pretty much is pretty simplistic, typical Wes Anderson style costume.
People look
That he's
amazing in the costumes in their period. They're this like the '60s. They're like
yeah,
the
yeah.
60s,
Look,
right?
yeah.
That
Oh, I'm not saying they don't look amazing. I'm just saying I think in a year where there's a whole lot of good period piece stuff.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I think what was nominated in the period for costume, I think they all belong there.
Oh,
So
okay.
so it's just one of those ones like Asteroid City. Unfortunately, is the one that kind of had to miss. And if anything, I would say that Asteroid City is probably really close to that five. But yeah.
All right.
But Lewis, what are your thoughts about decor design of a comedy musical feature film?
I think Asteroid City's close. I currently have it at number 7. Though you can make a very strong argument it's number 6. I know some people are already going to try to see if it could get in at number 5. I want to see if it sneaks in with BAFTA this Thursday. That would be very interesting because I want to say it did make the long list for production design at BAFTA. Um, Dan, when you're asking why did this movie not get in everywhere, and I say this as someone who thinks it's a solid film. I gave it a 4 stars on Letterbox. I think a lot of general audiences just didn't respond to it very well. Like I just looked up its audience scores; they're not great. I think it's six. I think it's 6.5 on IMDb. 62%. I want to say audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. So it seems to be a little bit divisive. And when people are, I've talked about this a lot. When people, because I know it happens to me, I'm guilty of this sometimes. When you're sitting down filling in your ballot and you're agonizing over that final spot, you're going to lean a little bit more towards movies you like more than others. And I just think Asteroid City, for some people out there, they couldn't get into it. You admitted that it took you a couple watches until you got into it more. And I think that might be what's causing it not to become one of the big Wes Anderson awards players.
I mean, look, Wes Anderson's very polarizing
Yeah.
in itself. I mean, it's why I think like Wes Anderson's better shot is in the shorts category.
Yeah, but he might not even make a live action short now with how things are going. I mean, I'm starting.
I think he'll get into live action
Oh,
short.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, that's good then. I hope so because
Well, I mean, it's one of those ones like if there's a big live action short or animated short, quite often the big ones with any big name people attached to typically get in. So I think Wes Anderson's Henry Sugar Short is probably getting in, and that's why I think Once Upon a Studio is probably more likely to get into the animated side of things.
He needs
Yeah.
another Grand Budapest, but those don't come around too easily.
But anyway, moving on, and I'm pretty to the art director's guild, which I'm pretty sure it goes into production design as well. And the nominated for period feature film at the Art Directors Guild, they've got Asteroid City, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Napoleon, and Oppenheimer. So yeah, once again, Asteroid City gets in here again. So, but it's one of those ones we might Asteroid City could be a sneaky one that sneaks in at least for production design anyway. But I think that's probably going to be its only nomination. But unfortunately, they're up against Oppenheimer anyway. But
the nomination would be the win for it.
Yeah. But Dan, what are your thoughts about the nominations for period feature film at the art design?
Yeah, this is the usual suspects here. I couldn't imagine. I mean, did you say Poor Things or did you not say Poor Things?
I didn't say Poor Things, but that's coming up next in the next.
Okay,
category.
yeah. So I mean, other than that, then this is the 5 that I would think you would get in here. You know, this is some pretty production art design and art direction for these 5 films, if you ask me. I mean, they all have that distinctive look that really jumps out at you. You know what I mean? I mean, Holdovers to me was really, but maybe that would be in with Poor Things. I don't know. But yeah, this is pretty standard.
Well, I mean, spoiler alert, Holdovers wasn't nominated in any of the categories for art design. But Lewis, what are your thoughts about the nominations for period feature film for the Art Designers Guild?
Yeah, there's really not much else to say here. It just goes to show you that Asteroid City might be able to sneak in. The strength of Oppenheimer, that narrative of they build a town. Kaler's also looking good with respect for its crafts. So you know that's it nothing surprising.
Yeah. Moving on to the nominations for fantasy feature film at the Art Decorators Guild, we've got Barbie, The Creator, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Poor Things, and Wonka. Lewis, what are your thoughts about the nominations?
So I have a hot take that I think The Creator has an outside shot of a surprise production design nomination, especially if it gets into visual effects, because historically there is sometimes some crossover with visual effects and production design. I wouldn't predict it. I'm probably not going to predict it in the 5, but I do have it like in my 10. That being said, again, Barbie should win here, especially if it's the front runner to win the Oscar for production design. If it does not win here, potential red flag. But yeah, that should be Barbie's to lose.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say than what we didn't really say for set designers. Once again, glad to see Wonka actually get some love here. I wish we saw it in the best original song but we did.
Scrub. Would you want Scrub in, Malcolm?
Well, I haven't designed. I've been listening to the music on and on. For me, it's probably you've never had chocolate like this. I think
that's mine. That's mine.
It's that or sweet or do you have a sweet tooth?
The songs are really good. I love the songs in Wonka. But yeah, The Creator, man, I love it that there's like they make it look like a Vietnam like war movie, you know, in a lot of ways, you know. And that to me jumped out. Besides the visual effects, you know, it looked like they were in the middle of like a survival war movie during Vietnam, like Apocalypse Now in a way, you know. And that was pretty impressive to me. So I'm right with Lewis there as far as that goes. I mean,
and they do have that narrative of the limited budget they had.
Yeah. So it just shows you this director really can make a movie look good for a low budget. Because he was the guy who did Monsters, he did Rogue One, right?
Yeah, and he did 2014 Godzilla. So he's
2015
he's
sounds
very
right.
he's very obsessed with scale. Gareth Edwards is very good with scale.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
But moving on to contemporary feature film in the Art Decorators Guild, Beau is Afraid, John Wick Chapter 4, The Killer, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Saltburn. Pretty much the standard ones we saw in the set decorated for the contemporary, with
What?
the exception of John Wick Chapter 4, which
But you
I found
can't
that
deny that, man. You cannot. I mean, the last two John Wick movies, Malcolm. I mean, the locations and the cinematography and how they choose these places and how they light these locations and stuff. I mean, they're just drop dead, just gorgeous places. It didn't matter if they're in freaking Casablanca or Tokyo or New York or Italy. I mean, all of these places just look gorgeous.
But
Yeah.
John Wick 4 has been underperforming across a lot of craft guilds and stuff.
Terrible.
And again, I've told you about this, Dan. I don't think it's that they dislike the movie. I just think a lot of them haven't even bothered to watch it.
It's unbelievable.
Well, I mean, either that or they just it's just forgotten about because it came out really early in the year as well.
That's why I'm worried about Dune 2, guys. I mean, like Dune wins 6 Academy Awards, and then they pushed this Dune till March. And look at the March problem. Batman had the problem. John Wick 4 had this problem.
Yeah, but I think that what Dune will have on its side is that it is a sequel to a Best Picture nominee. There are going to be industry folks who are excited to check it out and are probably going to be passionate about it like they were with the first film.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be a major, like Batman got pushed a little bit by WB, but their big thing was Elvis last year.
Yeah.
Dune is going to be a big push by WB. And I wouldn't be surprised if they, in their mind, their thinking is, we're going to build this up through the year the way that Universal was able to build up Oppenheimer.
I hope so.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones like straight up like action heavy movies like the John Wicks and that don't generally translate to Oscars a lot either anyway.
I mean, and I know it's just me, Malcolm, and I know it's just me, Malcolm, but when I walked away from that movie, and this is like my first reaction after within like a day or so, I was thinking 5 Oscar nominations right off the bat for John Wick Chapter 4, and I'm telling you, and I was serious about this, and I could have. I'm telling you, like costumes, cinematography. I mean, just makeup on the one Scott Adkins. I mean, just so many great things about this movie. You know, sound editing. You know what I mean? But
I mean, I've I mean,
you remember?
Yeah, I remember. I was there. But it's just one of those ones like even if it came out like in late November and that, I think it still would have had a hard shot against everything else that would be nominated against because I think like with costumes, I think a lot of those period costumes that was on that list, I think would have overtaken John Wick easily for a lot of those categories. But Louis, did I go to you for contemporary yet?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know how much I can add on to this. I mean, again, it's nice to see John Wick here, but unfortunately, it is a outlier. So I can't basically ditto everything Dan said.
Yeah, but I also remember that the Art Decorators Guild have an award for animated feature film as well. But and I would have brought it up earlier. But in the Art Directors Guild for animated features film is pretty much the same as the PGA lineup anyway. But you got The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Spider-Verse, Super Mario Brothers movie, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. So once again, we've talked a lot about animation. Anything further to say about that? Or
the only thing I would say is that keep an eye on that with animated feature because a lot of people say, well, Lewis, that's not the animated. It's not animation for parents. This is production. This not that. Yes, but the point is that it's not just the animation branch that gets involved in animated feature. nomination. So to me, it is interesting to see that Mario got in there. Again, I'm not predicting it, but I can see a world where Mario is just so popular that a lot of industry voters that aren't animation branch people are able to push it in there.
But yeah, and I mean it's one of those ones like I don't know if there is any precedent for maybe an animated movie getting into production design, but I think if anything gets in, Spider-Verse might get into full production design. I don't know if there's any precedent for an animated movie to get into that category, but
I have no idea. I know that there was a lot of talk about Pinocchio last year getting to production design, but
Yeah.
ultimately it didn't happen.
But you do have that one section where it was what the kid drew the vulture, and you had that, or what was that section called? That was a crazy looking section. Then you had the Indian section. Then you had the Gwen Stacy area. Then you had so you had various different worlds.
But the problem with that is that it's such a tough for animated films to get in because there's that bias of they just drew it, they just put clay together. You know, people don't fully respect how much work goes into that.
No, you know it's funny though. I want to real quick here. I was listening to Trevor last night, or some an interview. I listened to an interview of somebody. What would it take for an animated movie to get not only get into Best Picture again, but also win Best?
Was that the next Best Picture podcast?
Oh, that's what it was. That's what it was. Those guys,
that was a question by Ezra, who I follow on Twitter, and he's a huge animation.
And I'll tell you right now, Malcolm's gonna balk at this because he's given me shit about this before. Steven Spielberg, Mouse, Leica. It's a magic combination. You put them three together, I guarantee you get a Best Picture nomination and a legitimate shot at winning Best Picture. But Art Spiegelman is such an asshole. He will not let that property be made into a movie, and he's such a freaking idiot. It's so ripe to be made into a movie. And all I could think about is Leica and Spielberg combination. It would be the dream combination for me.
It's going to
Malcolm,
take.
Give me shit, Malcolm. Go ahead. Give me shit.
I think that.
I mean, I don't even know what that is, so I don't know what. I've not given you shit about that before.
I think it would take something that's at the level of the Spider-Verse, but actually breaks $1 billion. And on top of that, the slate for Best Picture isn't as strong or as hard to get into as this year. If that happens, it could get in.
Look how close Pinocchio came last year. Mouse is a better version of what Pinocchio tried to do last year. And if you put Spielberg and Leica together on Mouse, I highly recommend you guys read Mouse. It's one of the greatest graphic novels, if not the greatest graphic novel of all time.
I mean, isn't that the one that was banned in various places?
Tennessee. Jagoffs in Tennessee are banning it from schools.
Look, I'm not going to get into this tangent, but apparently the Florida state wants to ban dictionaries and encyclopedias from some schools.
Yeah. What a state we live in, don't we? We live in a great state, don't we, Lewis? With a great governor, don't we, Lewis?
Such a free state.
Yeah,
such a free state.
Anyway, moving on. Moving on to the sound mixing. Yeah, sound mixing. I tried to see if the Sound Editors Guild had come out yet, but not yet. It's supposed to come out today, but it hasn't come out, been revealed yet. I'll start off by saying on the shortlist for sound, we've got Barbie, Ferrari, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, and Oppenheimer. Those are the ones that are on the shortlist. So nominated for sound mixing for motion pictures live action, we've got Barbie, Ferrari, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, and Oppenheimer.
Where is The Killer? Where is John Wick Chapter 4 in sound? It's ridiculous. These are some of the best sounding movies all year.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those ones that I would argue that that they'll probably on the outside anyway. But yeah, I think this is the Oscar 5.
Yeah, I know. You're right.
Because these are all the ones that are on the short list.
Yeah, Oppenheimer's got sound anyway. We know that's
yeah. And I mean, it's one of those ones like for Killer and John Wick Chapter 4, maybe their strengths lie in the editing of sound, not so much the mixing of sound.
Yeah.
That's kind of that, and so once again, I don't know.
Have you seen The Killer yet, Malcolm?
Yeah, no, it's on Netflix. I've seen it.
Remember that sequence where he goes to the Florida boys and he's got that? That's some amazing sound in there, you know. I mean, and John Wick, the fight scenes are incredible, and the sound in the fight scenes are incredible. You know, I mean,
yeah, I'm not disputing any of that. I'm just saying that these nominees, I think, are really good sound.
No, they do,
especially on the mixing of it too. I think they're definitely really good. I think, but Lewis nominated for best sound mixing for motion picture live action. We've got Barbie, Ferrari, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, and Oppenheimer. What are your thoughts about those 5?
Yeah, it's interesting that Barbie got into here, because I know if we were talking about Oppenheimer having a tough time getting to costumes, probably Barbie could have a tough time getting to sound. And I know there was another sound guild that Barbie. No. I'm thinking about cinematography. If Barbie gets into sound, that would be an interesting show of strength. I wouldn't predict at the moment, because I think it's going to have the problem that Everything Everywhere did, where the sounds are going to be considered like these Looney Tunes, comedic sort of things and stuff like that. And there's a bias against that at times from the sound branch. Oppenheimer, I think, is probably the front runner to win this and an Oscar. So, and honestly, at this point, unless something dramatically changes, I can't, even in a world Oppenheimer melts down and doesn't win Best Picture, it's hard for me to see it not winning sound.
Yeah. And yeah, so I'm just going to add, this is specifically the sound mixing guild anyway. So
right, because we used to have two types.
Yeah, the sound editors guild is supposedly coming out either today or tomorrow.
So I think we'd all be stunned if Oppenheimer doesn't get that as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, but as I said earlier, all 5 of the movies that are nominated here, they're all on the short list for best sound at the Oscars anyway. So
these are they got sound.
Well, I mean, as Lewis said, Barbie is the kind of slight outlier here, because while the mix sound mixing might be good, like the sound branch itself might not think that the sound on a whole is good.
And even happened to Everything Everywhere, and we saw how big that movie was. Even there, it faced that problem.
Maybe one of those ones I mentioned, Killers or John Wick, could get into sound in the.
Well, I don't think John Wick is in the short list.
Oh, it's on the short list then.
I don't know. Is the Killer on the short list? Do you remember?
Yes, it is.
Oh, that's good then.
Yeah.
That's good. That'd be nice for the Killer to get a nomination in sound.
But moving on to the sound mixing for motion pictures animated, we've got Elemental, Spider-Verse, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, Boy the Heron, and Super Mario Brothers.
Again, the more I hear about Super Mario getting into here, and knowing that it's not just the animated branch voting, I don't think it's that crazy if Super Mario sneaks in there.
Yeah, and just because randomly, I'll bring up this one as well. And the sound, because they have a sound mixing category for documentary motion pictures as well. The sound mixing for documentary motion pictures, we've got 32 sounds, which actually just recently won the Cinema Eye Honors Award for Best Documentary. We've got American Symphony, Little Richard, I Am Everything, still a Michael J. Fox movie, and Taylor Swift Eras Tour, which apparently is counting for documentary here.
All musicians. Most of them musicians.
At this point, with documentary, the big question is just going to be: is the documentary branch going to snub still, given how incredibly popular it is across like practically everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's one of specifically for this category. I could actually see maybe American Symphony be the random documentary that gets another nomination in a different category, because I could see I still have to watch that documentary, but I could see it maybe getting a sound nomination. Um and it's one of those ones like while you can scoff while you that there's a lot of this especially for documentary, there's a lot of like big musicians anyway. Like the sound mixing for Taylor Swift Dinosaur was great though. So and it's one of those ones I'm actually surprised that still Michael J. Fox movie got in for sound mixing of all things of all out of all the guilds it could have gotten into.
There's just something about this documentary that's hitting with so many people. It's the popular pick with critics. The question is, will it get snubbed by the documentary branch?
Well, the one thing I will say about Still Michael J. Fox movie, I did finally get around to watching it because I there's been Killers of the Flower Moon wouldn't work on Apple TV Plus. Well, I'll see if it was just Apple TV Plus in general. So I just flicked on Still because like, well, I want to watch it anyway. And it played alright, but I like it, and I think with the documentary itself, I think it's one of those ones like it's about this beloved actor, and especially knowing like because everything they sort of went through with Parkinson, and all that and stuff like that. I think that's why it's connecting with a lot of people is because it feeds a lot of their nostalgia for this actor. So I think that's why it's hitting a lot of places. But yeah. All right. Anyway, moving on to the Cinematographer's Guild.
Oh, don't get me upset, Malcolm.
I mean, you're already upset in the group chat, so there's not going to be anything different.
I'm upsetting the group chat.
Well, I remember when I brought it up, you mentioned a certain movie that you've been talking about a few times today, but nominated for theatrical feature film in the cinematographer's branch, we've got El Conde, Maestro, Killers of the Flower Moon, Poor Things, and Oppenheimer.
Lewis's favorite movie, El Conde, getting here.
Well. Once again, I think this is Oppenheimer's to lose anyway. I think anything that it goes up against it. But I was actually going to point out because I completely, I think a lot of the times in the cinematographer's front, there's always this outlier of a random foreign film sneaks in here, and I think it looks like it's probably going to be El Conde this time around.
It's Lewis's favorite movie of the year. Haven't you noticed that, Malcolm?
It's not my favorite movie of the year, but I do really like the cinematography in it, and I'm happy to see it having a shot. And I've been saying for months that it's got an outside shot at a cinematography nomination.
Yeah, he has. You've been calling this for months. This is something you've been holding on to. It's like that marble that you don't want to let go of, and you want to throw away. Or that piece of gum that you've been holding in your pocket for months and months. You've been holding on to El Conde for months.
It's just been giving me a lot of vibes of Bardo. Like that, just
it is Bardo. It's Bardo. Yeah, it's Bardo. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But Dan, what are your thoughts about what was nominated and fit the?
I mean, this is just Oppenheimer all day, every day of the week. I mean, how many of these are there? Is this just the only one, Malcolm?
Yeah, this is the last guild. Then we're going to talk about the.
Well, I'm gonna piss off the group chat again because it should. John Wick Chapter 4 should be in here. Dan Lautzen is getting robbed this award season. He's got two of the best looking movies of the entire year this year. And of course, this guy can't freaking sniff a nomination to save his life anywhere, let alone the cinematographer guild. I don't know what this guy did to piss people off because I don't understand. This guy is what he's did in John Wick Chapter 4 is mind blowing. That movie looks so freaking good. What he does with lighting, natural light, non natural light, sunlight, sunrise light, green light, red light. I mean rain. I mean it's just all kinds of stuff he's able to film and make this movie look phenomenal. And then he does the same thing for The Color Purple with mostly nature lighting, and it's like, what does this guy have to do for a first nomination in his own damn guild? It's ridiculous. Go ahead, Lewis. I already went off my soapbox. Whatever. Malcolm, you go. Whatever.
I mean, it's unfortunate because he does do incredible work in John Wick, and his work in Color Purple's really good as well. I did find it interesting that Barbie did not get in here. I think this is the first guild that Barbie missed something in. And I don't think anybody's really thought that Barbie has been a strong contender to cinematography, but because it's got the same cinematographer as Killers of the Flower Moon. And I think that's where they're going to try to
Rodrigo Prieto.
Yep, that's where they're going to recognize him. But yeah, it's Oppenheimer's that lose. Unless something dramatically happens soon, it's going to get to the point where it's going to feel like just an absolute lock to win cinematography. Even in a world where Oppenheimer melts down and loses Best Picture, it's looking like it's going to be a big tech winner.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely one of those ones that I mean, well, it's unfortunate about John Wick, but I do think that what's nominated is deserving to be here.
I'm not saying it doesn't deserve to be there.
Yeah, well,
but nobody's talking about El Conde. Why would El Conde be in here?
Because the cinematography is some of the best of the year.
I know it is. It's gorgeous.
I mean, was anyone talking about Bardo getting in last year?
I thought it could because of the work on there.
Yeah. Well, how about the first 15, 20 minutes of Maestro? Why isn't that considered some amazing cinematography?
Wait, did Maestro get in here?
Maestro
yeah.
on.
I love the cinematography in Maestro.
I mean, it's my personal winner in cinematography.
Yeah.
Did
you do Ace Eddie's yet, Malcolm? Has Ace Eddie's come up yet?
Ace Eddie's hasn't come up yet.
No, that unfortunately this year that will be happening after Oscar noms, which sucks because they are really helpful.
Why would they have that come out after the Oscar? That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I think it's just a case of it's just the way they planned it. I don't think it's that they intentionally made it for after the Oscars. I think it was just the way that they decided the thing. I don't know.
All right.
Because I think maybe it was a case of the strikes kind of put a strain on them, and they wanted to give the editors a little bit more time to actually catch up on the movies. Or, I don't know.
Work. Maybe they have to get to work.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I was going with that. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones. But I forgot where I was going with this. But I think it's one of the things with Barbie. Like, I think it's just a case of like people were either kind of split between Killers and Barbie, and they ultimately went to go with Killers. But maybe not enough people voted for Barbie to give it that enough to slide in here.
But didn't Barbie's cinematography get in somewhere?
Critics' Choice.
Yeah.
But it got everywhere Critics' Choice.
But that's a good segue because let's talk about Critics' Choice. Well, I mean, it's pretty much going to be a case of saying the same movie multiple times.
Yeah, we know it's all a bunch of Barbie wins and a bunch of Oppenheimer wins.
But I didn't get around to watching it. But but what were your thoughts about the actual show itself? Before you get into some of these wins.
So you didn't watch it, Dan?
No, I tried to watch it and it didn't. It wasn't live on the CW app. They're gonna you could only watch it on CW on cable live. It wasn't on the CW app, so I try to watch it on the CW app on my smart TV, but I wasn't able to. So I'll probably watch it in a few days. When it comes.
Well, okay. Well, then I'll comment on the presentation. I mean, they really need to like divide the TV and the film stuff up because they clearly don't have enough time, and then they rush some of these awards where they just regulate them to being bumpers, like the international feature was given out with a basically a commercial bumper. I would have liked to have seen them at least shown the nominees. Like the Godzilla -1 director showed up. He had these great Godzilla shoes on. He brought his little Godzilla figurine. This is like a big moment. This is the first time in Critics' Choice history that a Godzilla movie got recognized. But there's nothing to recognize it on the broadcast because they just regulated it to a bumper. They did the same thing with the screenplays. The screenplays didn't get to have speeches, with the exception of Chelsea Handler trying to get Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie up there for a few seconds. They got to do something about this. I respect that they're able to keep the show tight, but they got to like do a deal with CW where they have one night TV, one night film, because this is not working out. Trying to rush everything like this, and not getting very many clips on top of that.
Yeah.
So that would be my beef with it. But I do enjoy the fact that it starts at 7. So it starts at Eastern time, so it starts a little bit earlier. And I do like the fact that they don't overrun, but they really got to do something about trying to squeeze so much into one show.
Yeah. I get that. I watched I saw a clip of a bit of Chelsea's like opening monologue, clearly taking a shot at Joe Queer, who apparently she dated at one point, which I found out recently.
Yes,
but
actually, I did see that too. Malcolm.
but yeah, it's like she just quickly said, "I thank you for laughing at that. My writers wrote it." I was like, and the other clip I saw was once again, apparently celebrities don't know how to take jokes because in the presentation for I think it was best original song, that when they're running down the nominations, like you got these great singers like Billie Eilish, Dua Lipa, and I can't remember who
Lenny
else.
Kravitz.
And then you did a lot. You've got these non-singers like Jack Black, Ariana DeBose, who both of them are singers in their own right. Like, well, is Jack Black as part of Tenacious D? Like, he's got records in that. He's an actual singer.
Tenacious D.
Well, yeah. Ariana DeBose is probably more of an actress and has been a musical. I still wouldn't really class her as a singer person.
She's more of a Broadway performer.
Well, I mean, more of an actress than anything. And then Ryan Gosling does it. But apparently, Ariana DeBose just wasn't happy with that joke and whatnot, and had a very sour look on her face. But it's like you've got to be prepared to be roasted at these award shows.
Yeah, I don't understand that. If you show up to these things, that you're gonna get roasted, and that's the whole. If you're in that room, you're fair game.
Yeah,
I've always said that. Go ahead, Malcolm.
And I mean, it's one of those ones like it's not like that was a really offensive thing to say either. Unlike some of the stuff Joe Coy said. But there's a lot of people leaping to defense like, oh, she is a singer. She's like in musicals. She's still an actress being in a musical. Like, she's not a. Well, yes, she can sing. She's a really good singer. Like, so is Ryan Gosling. He's a good singer, but neither of them are professional singers. They're professional.
She did the song for Wish, Malcolm. She was singing the song for Wish.
Yeah, once again, I know that, but it doesn't make her a professional singer. Like, first and foremost, she's a professional actress who can sing, as opposed to people like Billie Eilish and Dua Lipa, who are professional singers, as their main profession. That's where they get all their money from. Yes, they do act sometimes. So if you see what I mean there, but it is what it is. That's all I saw that came across my There wasn't enough much clips from the Critics' Choice that came out, so there can't have been a lot of more. They can't have been any more controversial stuff that was said. So.
Well, the thing about
No.
the Critics' Choice that I always like, Malcolm, is that, and that's why I really want to get into the Critics' Choice one day. You know, where you get flown out to LA, you get to go to this awards show, and you get sat at a table with actual celebrities at your table, and the celebrities are very open with taking pictures with the critics and stuff like that. I've had at least 5 or 6 critics friends that I'm friends with on Facebook and Instagram and wherever, and it's just like a whole roll of pictures of they've got with this one, that one, the other one, and that one. You know, I guess one person locally couldn't get a picture with Leo for whatever reason, but a lot of people did get pictures with Leo. You know what I mean? So that's the one thing I always take away with the Critics' Choice is that they let the critics go to this party each year. And there was an open lottery to choose who was going to go, and then come to find out they let every critic that said they wanted to go. Which I would love to have been in that room. I'll be honest with you. And with all like Scorsese, De Niro, and some of those people, and Paul Giamatti, that would have been amazing.
Well, yeah, I mean, is there a process you can go to?
Yeah, I'm going to apply this year. I'm going to apply for it this year. I probably won't get in, Malcolm, but I'm going to apply this year.
Oh, I mean, you never know. I think because I mean, you've definitely got a good wealth of reviews behind you. Anyway, it's a conversation for another time. We'll go through these winners quickly because a lot of them are pretty self-explanatory. In some cases, don't have a chance of winning for various reasons. But the winner of Best Foreign Language Film went to Anatomy of a Fool.
Can't win because
can't win, and maybe that's showing some weakness of Zone of Interest at the same time.
But also strength for Anatomy of Fall for picture, and maybe.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that. Yeah,
I wouldn't completely say that that's bad strength for film because Anatomy is the popular critics pick. If you look at the regionals, and this Anatomy has been the popular pick, followed by Zone, followed by actually Godzilla -1. So it's, to me, it's not surprising that Anatomy won. I don't think that says anything bad about Zone because Zone has been a popular pick for runner-up. And honestly, I think Anatomy, if I were ranking the potential Best Picture nominees, I personally would rank Anatomy over Zone.
Yeah, same here. I have it slightly above Zone of Interest as far as my favorite films of the year. So that's how.
Well, I mean, objectively, I do too. But I'm talking about subjectively, I do too. But I mean, objectively, in chances to get in, I do believe Zone. Again, I'm going to predict the PGA 10, but I do believe Zone is the number 10 movie.
Yeah. Moving on to Best Animated Feature, that went to Spider-Verse. Once again, it's going to be Spider-Verse and Boiling Heron are kind of trading wins at this point. It's going to be which one is going to win the Oscar.
Boiling Heron's going to need to show strength at BAFTA, though. Because if that's the kind of crowd it needs, it's going to need to push it, that international crowd like we saw at Globes.
Best Comedy went to Barbie, which, I mean, it's good, but it surprised me a little bit because I saw a lot of critics raving about Bottoms. I thought for sure that was going to win over Barbie.
I think had Bottoms won, that would have told me Barbie was going to win Picture, because what I've noticed with Critics' Choice is that if the Best Picture winner is in comedy, it doesn't win comedy. But if there's a Best Picture nominee that wins comedy, it doesn't win Best Picture. And I think that's because there might be something going on with the vote counting about a certain rule if that movie wins Best Picture to spread the love instead. Because even last year, Everything Everywhere did not win Best Comedy, even though it had a big night at Critics' Choice.
Yeah. But I mean, it's one of those ones like I do get your thing, but I don't think I do, at this point I wouldn't have predicted Barbie to win over Oppenheimer anyway if I had Best Picture, but
No, I agree. That's why
Yeah.
I was expecting that it would win comedy.
yeah. Talking about Oppenheimer, Best Visual Effects went to Oppenheimer.
Can't,
I have a take on this because we know it can't go into Oscar, but there is a shot Godzilla -1 gets in. I think if you look at the precursors, the leader at the moment is -1 with the creator right behind it. The fact that Oppenheimer beat the creator here, even though most critics have been picking -1, tells me that a lot of critics who tried to get -1 nominated here for visual effects probably voted for Oppenheimer. So that might show some weakness for the creator if it goes up against Godzilla at Oscar. But yeah, it's Oppenheimer's not going to get into VFX, so this doesn't really get to tell us that much about that race.
No.
no.
Once again, Best Hair and Makeup went to Barbie, which once again can't win.
Probably just tells us that Bradley Cooper's issues more
Yeah,
than if anything.
Yeah, that really
Yeah.
sucked for that. Like, oh, not again. We cannot have this keep happening to Bradley Cooper.
Best Song went to I'm Just Ken from Barbie.
Am I the only one who wasn't surprised by this? Like a lot of people seem to be surprised because they were thinking Billie Eilish would win. But my argument was the precursors, most critics are picking I'm Just Ken. So I expected this to win Critics' Choice.
Yeah, I agree with
Well-
Lou 100% there. It's going to be a different story with the Academy, though.
Well, I mean,
Because it's a jokey song. It's a jokey song. They're not going to go for a jokey song, probably. It's not the Eurovision Song Contest.
well, I mean, it's one of those ones like I can see real that I'm Just Ken wins.
It'd be crazy.
Because yes, it is a jokey song, but it's still a really good song and a really good moment in the movie too. So I
It
mean,
is. No, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I totally agree with you.
so I mean, it's one of those ones like I do think it's one of those Barbie songs. Either I'm Just Ken or What Was I Made For. I think it's definitely one of those two that's winning.
My thing is, just, what if Billie Eilish and them get completely shut out and the Dua Lipa and I'm Just Ken songs get in instead? How crazy would that be?
Look, I mean, it would be crazy if that did happen, and I think if Dance the Night gets in instead of What Was I Made For, then I think that's going to be a sign that I'm Just Ken is going to win. But yeah, it's just one of those ones that because it definitely shows that there really isn't as much as the online chatter made you think when Super Mario Brothers came out. There really is not a lot of love for Peaches. There really isn't.
I hate that because I think this is great. I love Peaches.
Look, it's a fine song. It's
Wait till next Monday when we have to discuss song. I'm going to have some interesting thoughts to say.
But anyway, moving on to Best Score, that went to Oppenheimer. That's pretty much the front runner here.
Sweep.
Gordonson's going to come up with the second Oscar. Whoever would thought that? Jesus.
I mean, unless something dramatically changes, this is a sweep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, even though I'm not going to predict it, but they could because I don't think there was a chance of it missing a nomination for score in the first place, but there could be, for whatever reason, it could end up missing score for some strange reason. But moving on to
there's no way Oppenheimer misses score.
Well, as I said, I don't think that's going to be a case, but I think if it's one of those ones like for it to miss, it would have to completely get shut out at the Oscars. But if it gets nominated, then it's winning. So yeah, that's where I was going with that. But I'll just do production design and costume design as a combo because it's the same movie, and that both of those went to Barbie.
Yep. This is like on Barbie's worst day at Oscar. I think it wins costumes and production design. Unless
Yeah.
something happens at BAFTA where they go with poor things, I think that it's looking good for these two.
Yeah. But I will say, if Oppenheimer gets into costume design, then that could be an interesting case because it wasn't nominated at the Critics' Choice. So,
Right, right.
so
That's why I was making such a big deal earlier about the fact that the costume designers guilds were nominating it.
yeah.
And the other thing is, isn't Poor Things got better production design than Barbie? I mean, I think the production design in Poor Things is better than Barbie.
Well, I mean, that seems to be the hot debate. I mean, I would go with Poor Things, but I do think the production design in Barbie's pretty good.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
Ashton
Well, I mean,
City is just as good as either one of them. But
well, I mean, it's one of those ones like, once again, I haven't seen Poor Things, so take it for what it is. But I think the actual production design on the like Barbie city itself is amazing. I think it is really good.
But Poor Things goes to multiple locations with
Oh.
crazy production design. Like they're on the ship for a segment. They're in the house of Willem Dafoe. Then they're in this town. It's like all kinds of stuff that they're
Yeah,
doing.
but once again, I think it comes down to what people are looking for in production design as
Yeah,
well, because
right.
it's a case of it's not just the locations they go to. It's everything. It's locations. It's props. It's not costumes, but it's like the art design in the background and stuff like
You're
that.
right.
And
You're right.
and maybe once I see Poor Things, I'll jump on that bandwagon. But for now, I can only go of what I've seen, and I think Barbie is great with everything that it does, like in that movie.
No, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not saying it's bad.
I'm not saying you are. But moving on to, and once again, I'll do both of these in a combo because they're the same movie. Cinematography and editing both into Oppenheimer. Once again, cinematography I think is pretty safe because that's kind of been where it's been winning or getting nominated there a lot of the time.
I have a
Editing,
question for you, Malcolm. I have a question for you, Malcolm. Do you think they could do this type of thing with the Academy, where they announce two awards at the same time, two awards that they predict are going to be the same movie? Do you think they could do something like that? No,
There would be
No.
too much of a backlash.
Okay, just check, just checking. No,
The Critics' Choice would do something like that, but no way the Academy's going to do something
okay,
like that.
all right, that's
Yeah.
fine.
I mean, it's one of those ones like they may do that, like get the same presenter to present them back to back.
Yeah.
But they're not just going to go like, well, I'm just going to announce both of these awards together because that is once again, no one knows what the winners are going to be until
Yeah,
they
you're
open up.
right.
The
Yeah.
awards.
You're right.
So-
You're 100% right. Nobody, and we all know the backlash would happen with Chadwick Boseman and
The only people who
Anthony
are,
Hopkins,
are the people who give them the envelope. There's
Bryce
people,
Waterhouse, whatever
Yeah.
the hell they're called.
two people who learn to memorize the winners, and they do not say anything until that envelope is open.
Yeah. Best adapted screenplay went to Cord Jefferson for American Fiction.
Which was a little bit of an upset because
Well, that's a good
Oppenheimer has been the popular critics pick, but it hasn't been the dominant critics pick. American Fiction's actually had its own wins. It's going to be really interesting to see if American Fiction can turn this into something, because that was really interesting that it won adapted screenplay.
That'd be
Yeah.
nice for Cord.
Well, I mean, I'll also add in like
consolation prize for him.
with the
And
fact
it only highlights how tough it is for Barbie to move from original to adapted. It's such a stacked category.
Dumb.
Well, I mean, Barbie wasn't even nominated. Oh, actually, wait, no, it was. Original screenplay went to Barbie.
Yeah.
See?
Which
Yeah.
was an interesting thing because Barbie has not been winning most of the regional critics original screenplay. It's been the holdovers that's been winning the most original screenplays. So that was interesting that it still pulled this off
Yeah.
here. But guess since Barbie's not an original, and Critics' Choice typically is a good predictor of original, this tells us that original screenplay is still a toss-up.
Yeah. And yeah, it's one of those ones that it's definitely tricky, and it's I don't know what it is about this award season because like I know in other years like most of the groups have been going for like they know what to go for original and adapted. I think a lot of different places are doing different things with Barbie when it comes to screenplay because I think WJ sticking with it in original. Oscars is going adapted. um, Critics' Choice went adapted original for Barbie, so it's been one of those all over the places for this one.
Yeah. Yeah, that would suck. That would kind of suck, Malcolm. You know that it's in original in all these other places. Then they shove it into adapted here. You know, and they kind of sucks.
I mean, it's yeah. I mean, it's one of those ones that I get it. I do get the argument for it because it isn't. It is an IP. It is technically based on that IP, even though it's not a necessary.
All right. Can I make an argument here, Malcolm? Can I just make an argument here? Okay, so you make an original screenplay, and the character's name is Barbie, and that's the movie that they came up with right there. Is that adapted?
No, because it's not adapted based on Barbie, the Mattel toy, which on the movie in the screen, as everybody has shown online, it says based on Barbie from Mattel.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
the Academy did the right thing, by the way. That is an adapted screenplay.
What?
And if I had it my way with how strict I would be with adapted screenplay, Maestro wouldn't be competing original either.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those ones like there's with the on with the awards like I've just been sort of I'm not going to make that ruling on which way it should go. I'm just going to let the votes decide on where it ends up. But
it's made these screenplay races so hard to figure out because of that. Because the Critics' Choice is very predictive of what wins original screenplay, but they gave it to something that's not going to be an original screenplay at the Oscar. Yeah. So now what we got to look at BAFTA, but the problem is that BAFTA rarely do you get an original screenplay that just won BAFTA. So it's just going to be crazy to figure this out.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those ones because I've had this same thing when it comes to it because it's always one of those things like while I do get the argument, I've always been confused about when sequels appear in adapted screenplays. Well, yes, like it is based on existing characters, but the movie itself is a wholly original, is like an original take. Is like I'm going to use Glass Onion as the example because, well, yes, Benoit Blanc is a character of Knives Out, but the movie itself is a completely original screenplay, just using that character in the
That's why the first one it was original, and the second one it's adapted.
Yeah. But yeah, so I know there's been a lot of people who's brought up comparisons like stuff like Logan and all that, but Logan, I think I can kind of get is like it's loosely based on the Old Man Logan storylines anyway. But there's been a lot of argument going, but the movie itself is what it was only loosely based on. It was pretty much an original movie, but just use the character. It's a really odd discussion. Time to move on to acting ensemble that went to Oppenheimer, which is pretty much kind of what we expected.
I mean, there were apparently a lot of people were predicting Barbie, and I do think Barbie is a real threat to win SAG ensemble, but this is the popular critics pick Like a lot of critics have been going with Oppie and Ensemble, so this didn't surprise me.
Yeah. Best young actor actress went to Dominic Sessa from The Holdovers.
This is crazy that the Holdovers won 3 trophies at the Critics' Choice Awards. That's crazy, and they're all acting trophies. That to me was a crazy situation.
I've been getting some pushback about this, but I'm telling you, I think The Holdovers has potential to be a sleeper late surger.
We all know. Look, we don't want to get into this too much right now, but we know there's going to be a lot of 2s and 3s and 4s for the Holdovers. We know it.
And I'm telling you, I was reading. His name escapes me at the moment, but I was reading a major industry journalist, and he was saying that the Holdovers Q&As right now are hot. Like the industry's really responding well
Think
to
about
this
it.
movie.
You said this before, Lewis. Let's think about it. Divine, Paul, original screenplay.
That's a picture path right there. That's a picture path. Now it may still
2s and 3s and 4s in Best Picture. I'm telling you right now, that is it us just trying to create a thing like we do every year with what's second place, you know?
It could be, but I'm just saying that it's got now 2 potential acting paths. So the fact that it still is competitive for original screenplay, you can't ignore that that's a potential picture path.
Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, and listening to Next Best Picture podcast, they're predicting Alexander Payne in director.
Yeah.
If Payne gets in director, you get original screenplay, Joy Randolph, Giamatti. Look out for the Holdovers.
Yeah, but of course, we may just ultimately be just fighting to figure out what's number 2 to Oppenheimer, and if we can't figure out what number 2 is, then this is going to be a, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Landslide.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those ones like, it's crazy, like crazy things have happened, but it's one of those ones like at this point, especially with how dominant Oppenheimer has been, I don't think there's a chance that anything can beat it. Like, as well, yes.
I still think there's a path for Barbie. I do. I don't think it's likely, but I think people are underrating it.
Not through costumes, song.
No, not through that.
But if screenplay.
Here's the thing, Dan. When we get to SAG, that's going to be the big test, because if it wins SAG Ensemble and that's it, I think it could, dude. But if it wins SAG Ensemble, but that's it, then I need to see it win PGA for me to believe it could beat Oppenheimer. But if it wins SAG Ensemble and Gosling, then that tells me that there's a potential picture path there with Gosling, and if it can pull off adaptive screenplay.
You're barking up the wrong tree, my friend.
Listen to me, Dan. Everybody knows I personally am not on the Barbie train. I'm one of the few people who didn't like the movie, but I'm telling you, there is a potential path. I still want to see what happens with SAG. If it can't win at SAG, then it's dead. It's gone. But I'm telling you, I don't want to completely dismiss a potential for Barbie. But that being said, again, we're all sitting here arguing what is number 2, and we haven't figured out what number 2 is.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
And funny enough, I loved Barbie, and I don't think it's winning. Like, it's one of those ones like, if on the night Barbie does get adapted screenplay, then maybe I will believe it.
But let me ask you guys. Let's say Gosling pulls it off against RDJ, and it wins adapted screenplay, and it wins costume and production design. Like that, it wouldn't be crazy for it to win picture.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I understand. You're trying to create a scenario where it can win picture, because let's put it this way, it's gonna get a lot of 3s, 4s, 5s, probably. Be honest with me, between both of you guys. Is Barbie the type of movie where you get 2s, 3s, 4s, but then you get 8s, 9s, 10s? Whereas Holdovers, I don't think you're getting a lot of 8s, 9s, 10s. I'm seeing a lot of 1s, 2s, 3s.
But see,
4s.
the argument in favor of Oppenheimer is the fact that the Oppenheimers, I don't think it's going to get as low as people tell themselves. Because
Yeah.
again,
There's
that
no
movie has
There's
some of the
nothing below a
best.
4 for Oppenheimer.
That movie has some of the best audience scores of the year.
Yeah.
People have to stop pretending like this is Power of the Dog 2.
Who's going to put that 8, 9, 10, 7, even
Right.
6? People put it at 6, I'd be shocked. You know what I mean? So that's why a lot of 2s and 3s and 4s for holdovers, or 3s, 4s, 5s for Barbie ain't going to overtake it. And
Yeah.
Dan Merle did a great video last year. I wonder if he's going to do that again this year. His video about how the Academy works, or the preferential ballot works. That's a good. If people are watching this and you haven't watched that Dan Merle video, I'd recommend you watch. Go away from Gone with the Wind just when we're done. Keep us on here, but later on, go watch that Dan Merle video where he explains the preferential ballot. It's very, very smart, very intelligent. Dan's a smart guy.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those ones like, well, with Oppenheimer itself, like that's a movie that I can see getting just a lot of runs and just being dominant.
Yeah.
So I mean, like we can argue about this all we want, but
The thing is that if there is a number 2 that emerges, it's going to take time to figure out, because after Critics' Choice is DGA, Oppenheimer has that on lock. Then it's BAFTA. Oppenheimer's a heavy favorite at BAFTA. And then we get the SAG, which will be the first big test for Barbie and maybe American Fiction.
The PGA is a big one because it's all about money. But Oppenheimer almost won $1 billion, and it's going back into theaters, and it's got very good physical media sales. Yeah. They're selling out their physical media, so it could cross Barbie on budget, on money.
I mean, most best picture nominees go back into theaters if they've been out for a while. So I mean,
PGA is all about what makes money. They're 9 out of 10. That's why what Maverick won that one year.
No, Maverick lost Everything Everywhere. That's when we knew it was over.
Oh, never mind then. Right.
And don't forget, PGA does use a preferential ballot. That's why they're so good at predicting the winner.
I gotcha.
But anyway, talking about the holdovers, Divine Joy Randolph got supporting extras at the Critics' Choice.
I gotta take here, because I'm not surprised that she won here. I don't think this race is completely over like a lot of people are saying, because we're going to BAFTA. That's the next big test for the actors, is BAFTA in a couple weeks. And let's say it how it is. BAFTA has a history of being biased against people of color. It's well known. Now, when a person of color is sweeping, they do tend to win BAFTA. Like even Will Smith won at BAFTA. And there's a possibility that that's just what happens with Randolph. But do not be shocked if they go with Emily Blunt, because Emily Blunt is British, and they could end up going with her for Oppenheimer. And all of a sudden, we go to SAG with a real race for supporting actress, because Emily Blunt is popular with SAG. She's won there before.
My thing is this: what does she really do in Oppenheimer? I mean, she gives
it doesn't matter, Dan. What matters is that they like her, and she's in the Best Picture front runner.
No,
it's the same thing that happened with Jamie Lee Curtis.
No, I understand.
It's one of those ones because I argue that supporting actress helps bring the best out of the lead actor, because supporting in that. So I mean, it's one of those ones it's not so much like they don't have to do anything in the movie. It's how well do they complement the lead actor and all that, and and it's one of those ones because BAFTA has a very different voting system as the Oscars anyway, and so I could see Divine Joy Randolph being one of those jury picks that they put in anyway.
You're right. You're right about that, actually, Malcolm. You're very correct about that.
But that's going to be one of the problems when we get the BAFTA noms on Thursdays, that we won't know what the jury saves were.
Well, that's fair. We'll never know.
And the other thing is too, Penelope Cruz is European. She's Latino, and she's pretty popular with these types of guilds. So there's no shit.
Yeah, but she didn't make the BAFTA long list.
Oh wow, okay. No, I didn't know. I haven't seen the back the long. I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, Penelope didn't make it.
I mean, it's one of the, I did have it on the list to talk about it at one stage. It's like, well, the BAFTA nominations are coming out this week anyway. It's like, the point was like, not really much. I don't need
okay.
to be.
Yeah, that was the one I did not get a chance to look at.
Yeah. Supporting actor went to Robert Downey Jr. from Oppenheimer, which once again, I think it's a case that I think this is showing
I think it's SAG or bust for Gosling because I don't see RDJ losing at BAFTA, so it's all about what happens at SAG.
Yeah. Emma Stone got Best Actress for Poor Things.
Dan, do you agree with me? This isn't over yet, actress.
I think it's over. I think.
I don't know, man.
I think the nudity puts her above what Emma, what's her name does.
But the problem is that
the weird walk, the weird.
But
voice.
in her speech, she pulled a Kate Blanchett. She basically was like, well, why, I can't believe you are giving me this. She shouted out Lily Gladstone specifically to give her a little moment there. Like, I think Emma would not mind losing if it's a Lily. And telling you is that I don't know who's winning BAFTA. I can see Lily winning BAFTA. I can see Emma winning BAFTA. And I don't know who's winning SAG. I can see Emma winning SAG. I can see Lily winning SAG. Yeah. I think this one is one that I don't know how it's going to go.
But be honest with me. Come on, guys. Malcolm, you haven't seen Poor Things. Be honest with me. Look at Lily Gladstone is doing. And look what Emma Stone is doing.
No, hey, listen.
Day.
I agree with you.
And
Emma got my vote for the two for Central Florida, Puerto Rico. She was my number one vote. She is my personal winner and actress. But Lily's got such an incredible narrative. She gives great speeches. She seems like a good person. She's just got a lot of stuff behind her that could help her a lot.
You're right.
And she wouldn't be a repeat winner, which could excite certain voters.
Put her in supporting. Bye, Divine. Give it.
If you're Divine Joy Randolph, you do not want her in supporting.
No, bye, Divine. It's what you wear for wearing those two showy dresses.
Once again, I haven't seen either of these movies. I don't take my thoughts with a grain of salt here. But once again, even if Lily Gladstone wasn't supporting, there's no guarantee she'll win that anyway, just because of the love that Divine is getting. And I think she's getting a lot of love. I find it hard to think that if Lily wasn't supporting, that she would have won. I
cannot wait to see you guys' reaction come the 23rd of January when Lily Gladstone shows up in supporting actress.
Wait, are you telling me that you right now are ready to predict that she's going to get placed into supporting instead?
Yep.
Man, if that happens, that especially since they usually announce supporting actress first on nomination morning.
But anyway, what I was about to say is I don't think this race is over because Lewis does bring up a good point of, and once again, I didn't watch the Kurt's Choice, so I haven't seen the speech. I'll probably look it up afterwards now. But if Emma Stone did in fact do a Kate Blanchett, then I think and if Lily Gladstone is in Best Actress, then I think there's a chance that Lily Gladstone will win after all that, because it definitely worked. That definitely was what happened with Kate Blanchett.
Guess what though? The Academy said, nah. We know you're the best, and here's your gold trophy. They know Emma Stone is the best. They're gonna say, nah. Here's your gold trophy.
But wait a second. The Academy went with Michelle over Kate. They didn't say nah. They
Oh,
said
shit.
okay. We're gonna get behind
Yes.
Michelle.
That's right. They were Michelle Yeoh. My bad.
No, to be fair to the argument,
My bad.
Lily is not in the best picture frontrunner like Michelle Yeoh was. Like she's basically that movie's only shot at a win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But be honest.
Doesn't
she come across as more of a best supporting actress type?
I don't.
They love giving the unknown, the person that has never been nominated.
I don't disagree that I personally believe it's a supporting performance. But again, Emma is my personal. If I were an Academy voter and I had a vote, I'm voting for Emma. But I'm just telling you is that the Lily is a great campaigner. She seems like a good person. She just gives off these very good vibes that the room wants to talk to her and everything. And she has a narrative behind her. I don't think this is over.
Once again, like going back to Killers, because I can't remember when it was that we were talking about this, but in a lot of the press interviews, like Leo doesn't do any talking. He will pass things on to Lily Gladstone. So I wouldn't be surprised if Leo was part of the one that helped them campaign Lily to be in that lead actress race as opposed to supporting. So I think if Leo was behind that and he was the one that was sort of pushing for that to happen, I think we kind of have to accept that. Like, well, yes, we may personally not see her as supporting, and maybe if I eventually get to see Killers of the Flower Moon, then I'll be able to talk on this a little better. But I think Leo wouldn't push someone for a category if he doesn't believe that they deserve to be there. And so I think that's kind of where I'm at this point.
You know what, I want to look up the stat, Malcolm. I want to look up screen time.
I think somebody said something that she's only in the movie like about 27% of the time. But that hasn't stopped them before. People have won actor and actress with little screen time.
Judi Dench, 8 minutes for best supporting actress.
Yeah, I mean, and let's be honest, 27% of 3.5 hours is still quite a good amount of time. So,
well, I guess we can now. Malcolm's going to move us into actor, which is another going to be. We're about to debate how competitive that is.
Yeah, this is moving on to actor. Paul Giamatti got the win for The Holdovers. And this is where I think that once again, Paul Giamatti did win the Golden Globes for his respective category and there. So I do think it's going to be between Paul and Cillian Murphy.
Bradley's moved to third. But my thing, Malcolm, is this, okay? We forget about the British contingent or the foreign film contingent of the Academy. And Cillian Murphy,
the BAFTA crossover, that's what you're talking about?
Yeah. Cillian is a British actor. I think what Lewis always talks, it's SAG. You got to pay attention to SAG. Now, if Paul Giamatti pulls off SAG, it's over.
Yeah.
But if Cillian gets SAG, and then you got the BAFTA win, more than likely he wins in BAFTA, don't worry about old Paul. He had his wins at Golden Globes.
Though if Paul, because we get BAFTA before SAG, if Paul wins at BAFTA, it's going to be a sweep.
Oh yeah, that's definitely
because I'm expecting Cillian to win at BAFTA.
Yeah, that's he's got that. He's got BAFTA.
Now that being said, again, before people freak out on me and say, Lewis, you're in denial, it's over. I know you love Bradley Cooper's, but I still think there's an outside chance, albeit unlikely, that Bradley Cooper pulls off SAG.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing because he's got a lot of noms at SAG over the years, hasn't he?
Yes, and there's from the people I've talked to who talk to SAG voters or are SAG voters, there is support for Bradley. But again, at the moment, it's not looking good for him. This looks Paul versus Killian.
This is one of the best years, in my opinion, for Best Actor. I mean, it's next to like 90, what was it, 92, 93, or not in there where it was just like that. Maybe it was 94. It was this.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. I can see a world Killian doesn't win Best Actor, but Oppenheimer still goes on to win Best Picture.
Oh yeah.
I cannot see a world Killian wins Best Actor, but Oppenheimer doesn't win Best Picture.
No.
So to me, if Killian ends up being our Best Actor winner, it's a wrap on other categories.
People start going to bed probably at that point.
Yeah, like if I see Killian win at SAG, even if Barbie were to win SAG Ensemble, I'm expecting Oppenheimer wins PGA the next day, because I just can't envision him winning, and the movie doesn't win as well.
Yeah. While we're on Best Actor, because just because Leo was the most at the Critics' Choice, I did finally found amount of time for how long each certain people in Killers of the Flower Moon for. Leonardo DiCaprio is in the movie for an hour 50 minutes, just over half the movie. Lily Gladstone is in it for 56 minutes, and Robert De Niro is 47 minutes.
An hour of a 3.5 hour movie. She's in an hour of the damn movie for a 3.5 hour movie.
Look, this is one of those ones I would argue that it's still a movie about her, though. I think that's kind of where this thing why I would say she's, because by their screen times that because it sounds like it's more of an ensemble movie itself.
Well, yeah, it is. But they're the main characters.
Yeah, well, that's what I was about to say. Those are the three main characters, and they're all in less than half the length of the movie. So
here's a fun one, Malcolm. Here's a fun one. You want to add one more to really make it really fun? How long is Divine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers? Well, compare them. Compare Lily to Divine, and then we'll really get an interesting debate here. Lewis looks like he wants to go to sleep.
Well, anyway,
no, I'm just thinking about how we could endlessly keep debating this about Lily and Emma.
Yeah.
It could end up being that race that we go into Oscar night literally not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And here's the crazy thing that can happen that a lot of people haven't thought about. What if we go to BAFTA and Sandra Hüller wins?
That's crazy.
And then we go into SAG now knowing what the heck is going on. Because Sandra's not going to be at SAG.
No. That would throw a monkey wrench into that. But usually, most of the time, the BAFTA Best Actress winner, if it's an outlier like that, does not win Best Actress.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm just saying, like, it's almost always actress, dude. Out of all the acting, it's almost always actress that gives us the biggest headache.
Yeah.
So, before I give, because I do actually I've looked it up. But before I give you the results, how long is the holdovers? In
the holdovers,
it's about 2 hours and 20 minutes or something like that.
Right. That long? Yowie wowie.
But anyway, so Paul Giamatti is in the holdovers for over half this runtime, 1 hour and 13 minutes. Dominic Sessa is 1 hour and 5 minutes, and then Divine Joy Randolph is only 25 minutes.
So that's supporting performance. And so if Lily's in Killers for an hour and Divine's in Holdovers for 25 minutes, that's a pretty clear cut. What's supporting and what's.
Well, I mean,
by the way, since you do believe there's a chance Lily gets into supporting actress, I will point out that on Brother Bro's award expert app, you can predict her in supporting. You can't do that in Gold Derby, but you can do that in Brother Bro's app.
I'm gonna go back to it and do it. Do you want to who The only person I could see in person in this trio is Lewis. If I'm in Tampa in the next month or two, we'll do a Jeff Snyder, Scott Mantz bet, Lewis. Do you want to do a 20 spot on this?
On whether she gets into supporting actress? Well, I mean, we'll talk about that late off here because I want to figure. I'd have to figure out if we can even meet up where we.
Oh, okay. I have screenings in Tampa sometimes. If it's something I need to see and it's not playing in Orlando,
because I'm gonna tell you right now, I think this is a losing bet for you because I don't think they're gonna do that.
$20.
I don't think they're gonna do.
But just to wrap up that discussion, is I don't think the amount of screen time someone's in a movie for, I don't think that's an accurate representation of if someone belongs in supporting or actress. I think there's multiple factors for how to judge, right? Because once again, we can only assume that that X person's in that movie for so long, they must be a supporting actor, even though the movie is about them. So I think that's, as I said earlier, I think that's where this kind of correlation lies. I think because Lily Gladstone is a big important part of the movie, even though she's not in it as much. I would argue I think she still belongs in lead, but that's where I'm leaving it. Dan can gloat or be upset.
No, that's fine. No, I don't know. I'm just trying to see a way where maybe both of them can win. Is all I'm trying to say. That's.
I mean, both of them could win if they stay in the.
No ties.
It's a tie.
There's no ties. Ties. We're not going to get ties.
Well, I mean, it's one of those ones I think haven't they had ties in the Oscars before?
Yes,
decades ago in some of the craft categories. Sometimes,
yeah.
But the last actress was Katharine Hepburn and Barbara Streisand.
That's it.
And
yeah.
80.
So, I mean,
was it 80?
No, it was. I want to say late 60s.
Oh, was it? Okay, all right. I couldn't remember if it was on Golden Pond or whatever.
No, I think for Hepburn, I want to say it was Line in Winter, and then for Barbara Streisand, it was Funny Girl.
Okay, all right, yeah. So that sounds. How long?
And it was presented. It was presented by Ingrid Bergman, and she has that famous clip where she's like doesn't know what to do, and she's like, "It's a tie."
Yeah. I mean, everybody knows me that I've talked to. I've done multiple types of award shows and movie talk shows and stuff, and I've always wanted a tie in 1999. Can you just imagine if there was a tie or Haley Joel Osment and Michael Clark Duncan?
Yeah.
That was the tie. I mean, that would be the craziest tie of all time, if you ask me. But Michael Caine ended up winning, but the Cider House Rules.
I know. I still think Tom Cruise should have won that.
Oh, for Magnolia.
Magnolia.
11 in that.
But 1968 was the year you're looking for.
The tie?
It was Hepburn and Streisand. But, I mean, it's one of those ones, I think that, there's a good chance it may not happen, but I think there's also an equally good chance we may get another tie in this as well. So, who knows what happens? We'll find out when the Oscars are presented, but time to finish this off. Best Picture and Director both went to Oppenheimer, but once again, they're pretty much.
I mean, the director's done. We already debated a little bit earlier about Picture, but we all do agree that at the moment we'd rather be Oppenheimer.
Yeah, a lot of craziness would have to happen for Oppenheimer not to win Picture. I mean, a lot of craziness.
It would have to have a rough SAG PGA weekend, but if it survives that, because I think we all think it's going to do well at BAFTA. If it survives that, the SAG PGA weekend, it's a wrap. It's over.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving. But that's actually not moving on, because that was the last one. That's all we've got for you for this week on Gone Off the Wind. If you
Now
haven't done
next
it,
next week
week,
are we
Oscar
doing?
predictions.
We're doing Oscar predictions next
we're
week.
doing final Oscar
Alright.
predictions.
Every
We'll,
category, right?
yeah, every
23?
every category. We because we like we'll also have the BAFTAs to talk about as well because they come out this week, along with a couple some other what date is it next week?
I'm trying to get a guess for that, but I haven't been. I reached out to Trevor, but he hasn't been.
Yeah.
Trevor's getting a little too. Trevor's getting big, man. We'll see if he's got time to come.
I mean, look, I tried getting Trevor a lot of times last year.
We only got him once last year. We got him once last year.
Yeah, and that was talk about the Oscars that once they're done. But I'm going to try and get at least a couple of guests. I was going to reach out to Chad and tell them. I think we've had them
But
on the Oscar.
if we're just gonna predict the nominations, I would just suggest that we try to be really quick about like BAFTA and stuff, and just get to because we're talking about 23 categories, 5 nominees.
Well, I mean, I mean, I've got a way of being quick about the actual nominate like the Oscar. We can talk more about this off here anyway.
Okay.
We can talk about this here now. But yeah, Dan, we can be find you online.
Where you can find me under my name, Dan Skip Allen, Facebook, Threads, Blue Sky, X, Letterbox, or some variation of DP Skip Allen or FromTheFourthRow.com. I'm a film critic in Orlando, Florida. I've been cranking out reviews left and right. Even though it's January, I've actually been having a really prolific month for the month of January. Only one Sundance film coming down the pipe, but hey, what are you going to do? And every week here with Malcolm on Gone with the Wind. And stay tuned, people. We're going to bring back Bleacher Features.
And yeah, you can find and you could let's see, Lewis, we can find you online.
I just go MendesMovieReport.com, find all my stuff, movie reviews. Not much movie reviewing I'm doing at the moment because of how quiet January has been. I did come out with some new Oscar projections today. Final ones are coming after BAFTA nominations. I'll be talking about them more in our next episode here. And then if you want to find me on social media, Facebook, Twitter/X, Threads, Instagram, Letterbox, Mendes Movie RPT.
And you can find me on Tape for Productions, the host of Rankin every Sunday night. Next week, we're talking about Top 12 and the Kendrick movies in honor of Self Reliance that came out recently. You can also find me every Monday for Gone with the Wind. I pop up every now and then on the Movie Hero Network. You'll see me tomorrow as I take on JP on our favorite TV shows. And yeah, I pop up here and there. I host trivia and other places, but yeah. That being said, that is the end of the show for this week. And yeah, we'll see you next time. So actually, I'll just end it because I don't have a